welcome in. What's up, guys? If you're here early, just give me 5 minutes. I'm going to wait for folks to come in before we start. And I forgot to turn a light on. All right. We'll give it about 5 minutes, then we're going to watch some It's Complicated. If you're here early. Double play. There we go. All right, YouTube's working. Great. Everything's on. YouTube is always finicky for some reason. We'll give it a few minutes, then we're going to check out a few It's Complicated channel episodes. So if you're watching this after the fact, I would just skip forward. Yo, welcome in, bro. You beat everybody. Great to see you, man. I hope everything's going okay with you. I got like a weird sounding hiss that I'm trying to figure out what it is. Oh. I think it's just headphone stuff. Hope everything's going all right with you, man. How you doing? This is always kind of like a awkward time when I first start the stream because I'm like, oh damn, I hope some of the folks show up, and then I'm like, the hell with it, you know. If they don't, I'll just have to go forward. But with you here, you know, it makes me feel a lot more confident. I'll definitely tell you that. What is it? Doing great financially helps a lot. Looking forward to Egypt. That's really cool you're going to Egypt, man. When if you don't mind me asking, like what dates are you going? I know you're going around election time. That's what I remember. So I hope it sounds like a good time to go. Like the weather would be nice around then instead of being like really, really freaking hot. Got my Egypt shirt on. Well, this is my second Egypt shirt because I have two Egypt shirts. This is my lesser worn one, which has Osiris and two of his consorts on either side. I'm proud of that. The next thing I want to buy is like a coffee mug. I saw one with cuneiform script, which is like ancient Sumerian, and then I saw one with hieroglyphics, and I'm like, man, I don't know which one I want to buy. 1st November, 15th to 16th. Nice. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm going to Turkey in October, and I'm looking at right now to see if I can get a plane to Egypt for a good like 3 or 4 days. I'd love to spend a few days in Cairo, so hopefully that could work out. I would just love for that to be the case, you know. Man, speaking of Egypt, like, what do you usually? I know Sumatra is cool. I was just gonna ask you, like, if you're going for the first times, like, what are the have to see places? You know, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of where I'd go. Like, obviously, there's the pyramids. That's the obvious one. Then there's the Cairo Museum. Maybe Alexandria is not that far away. I hear Alexandria is nice. Yo, Mr. Pitt. Good to see you in here. And Shadrach. We got Shadrach in the house also. Man, I am just chilling. I had a pretty long week. So I'm just grateful that I get to be here right now. If you guys hear any weird hiss or anything, please let me know. I think it's just my headphones that are kind of tripping me out. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna switch the plug on these guys, and we'll see if it makes any difference. Yo, Klaus. Welcome in, brother. Good to see you here, man. Klaus is in the Discord dropping wisdom like it's nobody's business. That's a little better. That's a little better. All right. Well, shoot, I should say we just get this started on the way here. Will was in here just telling me about Egypt because he's going to Egypt on in November, which is pretty sweet. And I'm going to Turkey in October, but I'm trying to split that trip and go to Turkey for a few days and then go to Egypt. So I'll be real excited if I can get a double trip out of that. Hope everybody else is doing well. I got 2 It's Complicated videos planned. There's a Right to Vote and TradCons. They're not as long as some of the stuff we watch. I was thinking if we got time, if we feel like it, there's a Abba and Preach video about Tim Pool and Lauren Chen kind of being Russian agents, which is the story I've been following. And maybe we can react to that. So if you guys are in the mood for that, here it is. YouTubers going to jail. They took 10 million for. So this came out a day ago. I haven't watched it yet, but it looks pretty good. But I've been reading all the news articles, and that story in itself is pretty crazy. So the DOJ came out. I've been trying to read the indictment just to do that. And man, it is pretty crazy how much money these guys were getting paid to make like videos that are kind of like pro-Russia propaganda. And it just makes me wonder how many other people are just out here taking money. Like, you know, this is just the Russian thing, but there are so many interest groups out here, and the way that whole industry works, I wish someone could write a book on it so I can read it. You know what I mean? Somebody dropped the Discord link. Let me do that for you right now. I'll try not to be a boomer about it every time I go in there to drop the link. Oh my God, installing update 1 of 16. I'll get back to you, I promise. I'm just going to let this update, and we'll put the Discord link in there. I liked it for the regular people. This time, though, I'm actually going to pyramids and stuff. Last year was Luxor. Man, that's pretty cool. Luxor. Oops. There's a lot. Anyways, back to the stream. Cool. Yeah, I'll try to figure out an itinerary later. But that's cool that you got to go to all those places. Mr. Pitt says, I watched your interview with Baskerville, and it was an excellent conversation. I dropped the link to it in the FNF Discord for you. Wow, I really appreciate that, honestly, man. Big shout out to you. I was really, I was hoping I can get as many views on that as possible. I mean, it did what my videos typically do, which is, I'm grateful for that. But I would have loved to get more just for, Dr. Baskerville to be able to really just get some views out there for him. But, I'm happy that the channel or that the interview is on the channel for posterity, so. Damn, I'm in the Discord. How the hell? Oh, here it is. Invite people. Whew. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad everybody, watched it and enjoyed it. I got some really good feedback on that. Also from a lot of pretty big size content creators who watched it. So that's cool. I mean, a lot of people watched it. I had 2 people reach out to me also. So there's a guy who has this really interesting channel. It's called Father X. And he emailed me. Oh God, I should probably explain that to you guys. I do a bad job at advertising this, but I do have an email address. So if you guys ever wanted to email me stories, or if you want me to share stories, I'll keep it private. Or if you just want to, I don't know, send me stuff you think is interesting, or hell, just say hi. I like reading emails. I don't know why. I feel like I finally got an email going, and it's pretty sick. But yeah, I added some stuff on here. So there's you gotta hit view email. Well, I put the email here anyways. So, if you guys want to do that, I put my Twitch on there. I'm thinking about going back to gaming content. It's very hard for me to sit down and game. Like, I always feel bad about it. But I've been wanting to play that Black Wukong or Black Myth Wukong or some new Chinese game that's doing well. I also added this Streamlabs tip. I put the minimum to $10. I mean, no pressure, like whatever. I ain't tripping, you know what I mean? Whatever you guys want to do. But basically what this does is it's a text to speech. So if you guys write your stuff here or whatever, it'll pop up on the screen and it'll, have a voice that speaks whatever the heck it is that you say. So I put that to $10 because, I mean, I don't think you guys would do this, but if, like, God forbid somebody figures it out and then they do 10 individual text-to-speeches for, like, $1 a piece is my fear. So we don't got to worry about that. All right. I think that story was funny as F. Damn it. I'm not sure exactly which story you're talking about, but it sounds pretty hilarious. Smiling face. Okay, cool. So we're going to get into this now, guys. And thanks for putting up with my very long intro. God, if anybody's watching this after the fact, I hope you guys skipped. We're going to start out with right to vote, and then we'll move into TradCons. So, you know, interesting stuff. I don't think we ever went over that one, but I wanted to put some time to It's Complicated because, you know, we look at It's Complicated videos on here sometimes, and I feel like it's just been a few weeks. There's also a interview from Matt Cross, which I want to go over eventually. And then there is a interview from Coach Greg Adams that I want to look at. So that's coming down the line. But this guy, this guy that emailed me, Father X, he has a channel and he just talks about his custody situation. And he talked about his battle for custody in court. And oh my God, it took 4 years and it cost like over $100,000. But him and I are having a private conversation tomorrow on Zoom. I'm totally that guy who ruins the surprise birthday party, by the way. But anyways, yeah, so, I mean, he doesn't want to stream anything. He just wanted to talk to me. But what I'm planning to do, hopefully, is maybe next week we'll react to a couple of his videos because they're very good and very informative. But he has a channel. It's called Father and then space and then a capital letter X. So he gives, you know, just tips on how to deal with the family court system. It's really good. I've heard YouTubers say that you can never tell which piece of content is going to take the internet by storm. If you just keep putting out interviews, eventually one of them will gain a lot of traction. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's true for a lot of, just for any industry that you're trying to get success in. It's like if you just work at it and you try your best to do a good job and keep making it better. This is where I usually say the hand of God. Like, you know, maybe the hand of God just picks one up. Like that video, the first video where Pearl found my channel, you know, I made a video about Fresh and Fit and whatever, and I didn't expect it to get that many views, but it got like 25,000 views. So that, you know, it just lightning struck that time. Tim Pool and, oh God, yes. Yeah, if we got time after this, I kind of really want to do it because the story's really crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. If I give you the long and short of it, like basically, you know, YouTube has completely canned Lauren Chen's channel, so it's gone. And she had I don't know how many subs she had because you can't see it now. But they got rid of her channel, and it turns out her and her husband, I guess, own Tenet Media or something. And they were taking like $100,000 a video, apparently from some Russian nationals or something that were there. I don't even know how they did this. But the indictment is published on the DOJ site to see. And it is just Tim Pool's wrapped up in this. I think some people are like, well, you know, it's an indictment. There still needs to be a trial. How could they do that so fast? But then at the same time, I try to think about it, and I was like, you know, if I put myself in YouTube's perspective, there's a U.S. election literally a couple months away. This trial or whatever the heck they're talking about to figure out what really happened is not going to be done for like, God, at least a year probably, right? So YouTube has a decision to make. Do we leave these possible Russian agent provocateurs on the platform and allow them to continue allegedly messing with the election? Or do we just can them now? And, you know, if it turns out they weren't, then we can just deal with those repercussions later. So they got a tough decision to make. And I can kind of see it from YouTube's side. I don't know why someone from Atlanta, Georgia is calling me, but not answering that. All right, so down to business here. Let's go and check this out. So this one's right to vote. Oh yeah, before I figured I'd give a little bit of my thoughts on the whole right to vote or women voting. And you know, I've never woken up in the morning and thought, oh man, you know, women shouldn't have the right to vote. It's, you know, I don't sit here and worry about that. I kind of am just a guy who accepts what it is now. And I don't believe that we're going back in time and women aren't going to have the right to vote. And I know some of you guys might feel differently about that, but I just accept the world that like that's the way we're going. You know, so when it comes to my ideas and I guess, things I'd like to see changed in family law. It's not so much like take women's votes away or whatever. It's just try to make the stuff we have more fair now, and especially with things like custody. And when we get to this custody story later on, probably next week on Father X's channel, you're going to see how crazy it is. Like, there really should be something done to help fathers get custody. So that's the kind of stuff, you know, I'm interested in. But so, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how deep, if that's going to be an issue, if it's just about voting in general. But I figured I'd just share that before I get started. I'll sub to Father X. Sounds like good content. Family courts are brutal. Oh, yeah. This guy does a really good job of going step by step. Like, he made it in a way for, like, if you're dealing with it, he explains his entire journey step by step, and he's got, like, slides and visuals. It's really good. I'm very impressed with this channel. Lauren Chen got the Stefan Molyneux banner instantly. Yeah, and then I think she was associated with Blaze. Blaze got rid of her. It's crazy, and, you know, the reason I kind of caught my attention, because I think we reacted to a video that was Tenet Media, and it was Tim Pool, and he had Pearl, and Rachel Wilson, and then I think it was Lauren Chen on the other side. She was the one doing most of the talking, remember? And then there was that fourth girl who didn't talk for like 90% of it. I think that was Lauren Chen. I can't even remember now. So to see her get canned like that is just absolutely insane. We are not going back. Just accept it. That's exactly how I feel about it too, you know? And it's like, if you're going to sit here and just try to beat a dead horse about taking the votes away, it's just like, it just makes it so easy for them to smear you and then say you're like, you know, some kind of a male supremacist or something, and then bam, everybody's gone, you know. So yeah, I just thought I'd be forthright about that before we start this video about voting. All right, here goes.
Would women fight to give men that right? If men didn't have the right to vote, how likely would women fight to give men that right?
Not as much as the men have supported the women.
Man, that's a really interesting just thing right off the top right there, because when you think about like family law or custody and stuff like that, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of women. I don't hear women being vocal about, you know, getting fathers into children's lives. I really hope so, but, you know, it's just not there. Yo, Peter, welcome in. Big shout out to Peter. For those of you guys who don't recognize Peter off top, he has a website called gynocentrism.com, and he's actually published books with Paul Elam, who I'll be speaking to at the end of the month. This is one of them. Let's see if I can get his name in there. So this is a book on chivalry, and it's co-authored by Peter Wright and Paul Elam. So you guys should really look into his work, maybe follow him on Twitter if you guys use that. And Peter, feel free if you want to ever drop any links in here, because to any websites or anything special. But man, it's an honor to have you in here, and I thank you so much for the donation and the support of the channel. So big shout out to Peter. All right, here goes.
Do you know anything about politics?
I do not. Since about maybe 4 years ago, I kind of dropped it. It's just been going haywire. It's confusing.
Why are so many women concerned with their right to vote if they know nothing about politics?
They shouldn't be concerned about it if they know nothing about politics.
Part of us wanting to be treated equal. So if a man is able to vote, they're like, I want to vote too. It's not really.
One thing, another thing, he'll probably touch on is just things like the draft and, that kind of stuff. I tend to think of like this hybrid system when it comes to women. So, guys, okay, we got to sign up for selective service, like, right, 18 to 25. And if we don't, we're facing some serious problems. Like, you can't qualify for government student loans. There's a lot of things that can happen to you. Fines, jail time, possibly. And with women, I feel like for women, it should be like women age 26 to like 32 should have to sign up if they haven't had any kids yet. You know what I mean? Because they're worried about the replacement rate and all that. And it's like, well, if you're at this age and you still haven't done that, like, you might as well sign up for it. And then, if you are raising kids or whatever, then that's the one thing that can like get you out of it. The way it would probably work out, though, is that it would be case by case, and the government would probably just repurpose the family law courts to hear, well, God forbid the family law courts, probably just the superior court in your county, to hear specific cases about the draft. Because let's say you're a father and you have custody and the mom decided to go to Vegas to become, somebody at Vegas, and just abandon her kids, she might still need to be drafted, and then maybe, it'd be different for you. So they need to figure out some kind of reform.
Something we really want to do, we just want to have access to doing it, really.
Why don't more attractive women engage in conversations about philosophy and politics as opposed to fashion and pop culture?
Because they were worried about their looks.
Why?
Everyone's wanting to get famous. Everybody wants attention. Everybody wants money. It's all about looks nowadays.
Man, I think that's most of Americans nowadays. I don't even think it's just females.
I agree with that guy. I really do. Or I think most of us, I don't know, for as busy as most people are just trying to survive, other than the stuff we watch, I think it's very hard to dig so deeply into something that you really understand it. And a lot of Americans, I think, just tend to rely on their favorite political commentators. And that's kind of the niche they fill, right? They're just getting all this information in. And then they're supposed to be relaying it to you with a kind of narrative that helps you understand, hey, what's going on in this huge chaotic mess of events, right? Now, if your favorite commentator is Tim Pool or Lauren Chen, then it's probably best to know that they're getting paid $100,000 a video to feed you whoever's paying them's propaganda. Yo, Michael, saying welcome in. I gotta get a Dragon Ball Z sound effect for you because your last name reminds me of a Super Saiyan.
Why don't more attractive women engage in conversations about philosophy and politics as opposed to fashion and pop culture?
Vanity. We've turned to such a vain society.
Fashion and pop culture is more appealing to public eye. As soon as it comes to getting down and dirty, when it comes to politics or anything like that, it becomes hard, and sometimes we can get emotional.
Have you ever personally been denied the right to vote or own land?
I have not, but I know that it's possible.
I'm a felon. I was.
Oh, beautiful! Look, this guy's a vet.
I got arrested for two DUIs in Oklahoma, and I went to prison twice.
Would you give up your right to vote if it required you to be drafted into war?
I'm not going to vote because I don't believe in our government.
Man, oh my God, I agree with this guy so hard. I don't know if you guys remember that video I put out on voting in the election, and I get that it's pretty complex. And if you watch the Stephen Baskerville interview, I discussed it with him a bit and kind of told him sort of my thoughts on not voting this election because they're not really doing anything for me. I guess in spirit, I'm basically this guy, except in a, mid-30s body.
What if I told you that voting rights originally required you to be drafted into war?
Brother, I served war. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a Marine.
Would you give up your right to vote if it required you to be drafted into war?
Would I give up my right to vote if it required me to get drafted? Whatever the answer is to not get drafted, I don't want to get drafted.
I would fight.
I would fight.
As long as I could bring my vape.
I would fight as long as I can bring my vape. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't think she's very sure about what getting drafted entails.
Vape? A drink?
Oh no, I shouldn't say that. My mom.
My bad.
Would you give?
That's sad. That's really sad right there. They're basically just, I don't know, man. It kind of really devalues what a lot of men had to do in order to, serve the country on the
Give up your right to vote if it requires you to be drafted into war.
100%.
Why?
I honestly...
So she says she would give up her right to vote if it meant she have to be drafted. That's not a bad idea either, right? Maybe that's something they could do for women too. I mean, I don't see them doing it, but I guess it's an option, right? You can be like, well, if you don't want to be drafted, you can opt out here, but you also can't vote. I guess a lot of them would take that. I mean, if she's any indication.
I think when it comes to the women fighting to be equal, we fought so hard that we actually, now we're being treated equally, and we're being treated equal as, I don't know, I feel like war is really for men. I feel like men should be put on that front line, not women.
I mean, see, and that's where the equality thing falls apart then. So it's like, if that's for men, then it's like, what is it she's supposed to do? You know, like what is it other than like this kind of nebulous, we're supposed to be nurturers type of thing? You know, does that mean you're pouring me a cup of tea and picking it up when I'm done and cleaning it? Like, what's your job? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Yep, Martin Luther King. I actually think Dr. Baskerville brought up that quote in the interview. And I remember I was thinking that before he said it. It's a fantastic quote. You know what? I heard another fantastic quote earlier today. And hell, I think it was Oscar Wilde. I can't even remember who said it, but it really stuck with me. And basically it was, things that start in anger, or anything that starts in anger ends in shame. And I was like, man, that's so true. If I've ever done anything and I got mad and I said things while I was mad, I always feel bad about it later. I just do. The two women have no idea what they're talking about. Sad. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. I mean, listen, I guess you can have your vape there if people can have cigarettes on the front line, but if that's what you're thinking about, you know, I don't know. Maybe she'd be a really effective drone pilot or something. He did. That's why I posted it. Yeah, I mean, it was a great quote. You know, that interview, I swear, we could have talked for a lot longer. I just didn't want to take up too much of his time, and we were already pushing like an hour and a half. But there was a lot of stuff we could talk about, and it made me feel really good, to be honest, too. Like, I felt pretty grateful to just be talking to like this political theorist PhD. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of cool, you know.
And we're supposed to be there taking care of the kids, homemaking.
Until women can be drafted into war, why should they be
Okay, so she answered that. She's supposed to be at home taking care of the kids, homemaking. All right.
allowed to vote for politicians that can send men to war?
I can't answer that.
If they're going to vote, are they okay with being drafted into the military, right? A lot of women said no. But how can you have a say on, you know, politics or views that you wouldn't even go to war and fight for, right? And yet they're going to expect men to do it. So I think that there are roles that men and women take place, and men have to decide they're going to step up to that.
What would you think if there was another draft and men all protested, holding up signs saying, "My body, my choice"?
I wouldn't.
Man, that would be fantastic. That would be men saying we're tired of being seen as disposable, as just these kind of utility pawns to go die in this kind of, you know, war. You know, would it work? I don't know. You know, they'd probably send out the guys to come arrest us and throw us in the back of the van and ship us out to the nearest base. But it would be hilarious because it would at least point out the inconsistencies with the other side. Women shouldn't vote. Repeal the 19th Amendment. You know what? Michael, sir, you have just given me a great idea for another poll. I love doing these polls, by the way. I already know what Michael's answer would be. Should women have the right to vote? Question mark. We'll just leave that as a simple yes or no, just to keep it simple. There we go. So we'll see what that looks like at the end. Repeal the 19th.
Mind it, because it's right. A man's body is a man's body, and they do have their own choice.
But at the same time, this is your house. This is your land. If somebody was to come to my property and trespass and want to take over, you're going to step up. You can't just sit there and scream, "My body, my choice."
See, that's the tough part about it, right? Because it's like, it depends on the war. I mean, if it's a war that threatens the mainland and your home and life is actually threatened in that way, then, you know, I get it. But if it's just like a war to go somewhere, like let's say Vietnam, you know, I'm sure there was plenty of propaganda that sold it as something that could, you know, oh my God, if communism and these guys win, it's going to be bad for us. But, you know, Iraq was another example of that. You know, they got people in there for WMDs. But really, the way I look at it is you know, there's a great game being played, as they call it. So, you know, they're going to do what's politically expedient to get power. It's all about power and expediency. And if you take political science or international relations, I guess, you know, like one of the earliest things that they kind of teach you is they're kind of looking at it as if each player in the game is a rational actor. You know what I mean? So we're assuming they're rational and that they're going to act in their self-interest. So, you know, they can maybe sell it to you in a way, but I think there's a lot of wars people don't want to go and feel that it's not right.
I would think that it would be well within their rights, because at the end of the day, why should we fight in a war that's caused by somebody else, some old man getting rich and wealthy off of our suffering? It ain't our war. It's yours. You did it.
Why are women able to vote on abortion, but men can't vote on being drafted?
Oh, that's a wild question. That is a wild question. That is crazy.
Men don't want to get drafted into war. Again, but I also believe it takes men to protect the household.
You know, and it's like, I don't think men woke up one day and were like, we don't want to be drafted. It's just more so that the other side has been afforded the privilege and the freedom, which, and freedom costs. You know what I mean? I do believe freedom is not free. That's something I believe is the true thing, you know, because either you're dealing with the state of nature, and then you live in a community, and the community helps push the forces of nature away from you so that you can have this kind of space to develop in, right? And that takes effort to be able to do that. If I was thrown in the forest naked, it probably would not be a long time, you know. It would be really tough. You know what I mean? So women have been afforded this very expensive, luxurious thing, and that is to step outside of their traditional role. And men see that, and that makes men not want to be in their traditional role. And it's just worse, and it's insult to injury when it's like you just get even less, and it's twice as expensive because, you know, women are now taking jobs and they're influencing things politically. So that's where the men not wanting to be drafted, I think, really comes from. Women shouldn't work outside the home and pay taxes. That's interesting. The women's suffrage movement got the right to vote because they wanted taxation with representation. See, that's an interesting thing right there, too. And I should really do a deep dive into that early sort of inception period, or that sort of seminal period of the women's suffrage movement. But that's interesting that it's about taxation with representation, because it pulls on those old sort of heartstrings of like the American Revolution and fighting against the British and all these kinds of things. But yeah, somehow they missed the draft and all that.
It takes men to be warriors.
Men are supposed to be warriors. They're supposed to be the king of the house that has no throne.
Men should have a choice on being drafted or not, just as much as women have a choice of having an abortion.
You know, it's just like you can't have a choice on being drafted. That like defeats the purpose of it. You know what I mean? There's no, it's just volunteering for the military then.
Why are we always talking about women not having the right to vote when men's issues aren't even on the ballot? Wouldn't that equate to men not having the right to vote, which applies to right now?
Technically, yeah, it would.
That's a pretty great line of reasoning right there, and that really is why I'm not participating in this year's election, because I just, you know, the things I care about, doesn't really seem to be on anybody's radar. And I get it, you know, I could lean one way or another. I'm like, I hope this happens, but the other part of me just doesn't, I don't know, I don't feel justified in doing it. And it's just my little protest to the system.
How are men even being represented?
Honestly, men are not really being represented. Women are the ones that are really being represented and supported.
See, that's a great question to think about too. It's like, are we as men and our collective interest as men actually being represented, you know? And it's like, you hear, well, you're not seeing anything from the Kamala side. And the Trump side, it's like there's J.D. Vance, and he kind of makes a few comments about, you know, women having more children and they should be given more votes, or, you know, for families like that. Trump mentioned the IVF thing and that there should be some kind of government help for IVF programs and things like that. But they're more so just kind of concerned about women and what is a barrier or a block for women. And that there's no talk about what men need, or helping men, you know, fight custody battles and to make things easier for them. And that's the part that's the big shame. By the community, men don't really have that much support. And it's sad, but it's true.
Well,
good for her. Good for her for acknowledging that. She's I got to give her credit for that. Hey, Dan the Man, welcome in, man. I haven't seen you in a bit. This is why women like Phyllis Schlafly opposed ERA, Equal Rights Amendment, because with the power comes the responsibilities, and lots of women did not want the responsibilities, like getting drafted. Yeah, it's interesting how like it reverberates through kind of everything. Like, you know, if they would say it's a man's job to provide, then, you know, you can see a woman paying like spousal support or child support. And yeah, I mean, the draft should apply to them at that point. I mean, and they're out here using language like partners and like we're partners, you know what I mean? So at that point, really it is justified, you know? Now, if you're a tradcon, who we're going to see later, to them it's just like, well, would you want your daughter being drafted, you know what I mean? And it's like they're gonna try to get you that way, but then at the same time it's like they give you no rights to protect your daughter. Like as soon as, you know, she's of a certain age, hell, even younger, the state can come in there and ruin your relationship with your kids, you know? And then once they're 18, it's like, well, you know, at best what you can do is try a series of reasoned arguments, you know what I mean? And not you know, maybe withholding affection or withholding finances or resources, but you know, at a certain point, you as the father don't have rights to stop your daughter from doing anything, and they're not fighting for anything like that either.
It just goes to show how much they want to put it in your face and let you know that you're nothing more than a tool, a piece of property that they're going to use until you're old and dry it out or die.
I like how Trump Tower's back here, and you know he's one of the candidates
for some other unfortunate event. They just want your women.
See, again, this is where it goes.
Yep. Klaus says, oh, that's Michael Sand says, in 1882, the Senate Committee on Women's Suffrage reported favorably on a suffrage amendment, stating that denying women the right to participate in framing the laws that govern them is taxation without representation. So that's interesting. So it sounds like that's really how they pushed this through. That was one of the core sort of arguments that helped them with this. Not sure about the U.S., but we are actually having an Army recruiting problem. Wonder why that is. Actually, I think the U.S. is also having that problem. I swear I saw some news on that. U.S. Army recruitment problem. I'm going to get inundated with ads now of people trying to get me to join. Oh, here we go. Yeah, right off rip. The Army's recruiting problem is male. Military.com. Behind the military's recruitment woes. Yeah, so it's not just Germany. And it, you know, it probably has to do with MGTOW, let's be honest, right? Like a lot of men are just like, what am I doing? You know, like they're making it so hard for us to do anything out here. Like why? The issue is convincing men to put on so the issue they're having is convincing guys to put on the uniform. A decade of declining recruitment. So we're talking 2014. I think that's when woke culture began. Numbers for the Army is almost entirely attributable to a significant drop in male recruiting. a decade. You could say probably the online manosphere began right around here, right? So Red Pill subreddit was made in October of 2012, and prior to that you had other men's rights spaces like Paul Elam and Peter Wright doing their thing. But you know, we started hitting the critical mass around this time in the last 10 years. So it's kind of funny. It would be actually hilarious. I think that is related. So a decade of declining recruitment numbers for the Army is almost entirely attributable to a significant drop in male recruiting, as female enlistments have remained relatively flat. Internal service data reviewed by military.com shows. Since 2013, male enlistments have dropped 35%, going from 58,000 men enlisting to 37,700 in 2023. Meanwhile, female recruitment has hovered around 10,000 recruits a year. Gosh, yeah. So the stark numbers paint a clear picture of a significant source of the military's recruiting struggles, with the Army making up the lion's share of the entire force and thus needing the greatest volume of new enlistments each year. Those shortfalls have contributed to the service overworking its force, something its senior leadership has conceded is a significant problem. Hell, it might be nice to pay them more. Yep, so Klaus, it's not just Germany. It's probably a lot of Western countries. Mr. Pitt says, the current political system would more accurately represent men if the female voting bloc wasn't as large as it is today. Yeah, it definitely would. And I mean, politicians are kind of in this place where they know they have to appeal to the women's voting bloc. And we know how polarized men and women are when it comes to voting. So, you know, I don't want to give them an out, but it's like it can dang near be career suicide for them to try to speak out. That's kind of the downward spiral we found ourselves in. People lost faith in our government and don't want to fight a war they may not agree with. No army pride. Yeah, you know, and I'm not super educated about veterans, but I have heard things from people who are vets that kind of tell like nightmare stories about coming back and not really being taken care of well. So maybe people see someone in their family and they saw what happened and they're like, this isn't worth it at all. The U.S. is definitely having a recruitment problem, which is why they use influencers and psyops to recruit guys. Yeah, I mean, you know, I know that's something they've been doing for a while, but, you know, either they're going to have to fill that other side up with women, possibly, or, I don't know. Seeing that there's a recruitment problem kind of makes me think that they might be thinking about a draft later on down the line. And there's a lot of talk nowadays, right? Like, whether it's Trump or Kamala, like, I don't think their foreign policy is going to be that significantly different when it comes to, like, the Middle East. You know, I'm sure there'll be some differences, but sometimes I think we're kind of headed towards a big war that might require a draft. You know what I mean? So it seems to be going that way. I don't want to sound like a doomer. All right, here goes.
Back to passivity, right? When you have men that are passive and they're allowing just any issue to be brought up or whatever, we should be shutting down issues that don't matter.
When was the last time there was any policy made to help men?
To be honest, I
Damn, that's a good question. If you guys can think of an answer to that, please put it in there. The last time there was a policy to help men. Like, actually someone was like, you know, this is affecting men, and we need to do something as a government and politicians to help men. Like, let's give men maybe some kind of help with college tuition. Let's help these fathers see their kids, maybe help them out and cover some of these court fees or expenses. Anything, you know what I mean? And I can't think of a single thing. So I think the answer is no, they have not done anything. I mean, nothing about paternity fraud, you know, any of that stuff. If anything, anytime it's just like, guys, it's your mental health. Think about the mental health. You got to figure out mental health. And it just always is, that's the go-to. Secular World, first time getting ads while watching your live show. Is this new, or does it happen to frustrate the viewers to the point they leave? You know, so each time when it comes to the ads, each time I make this, I always click conservative for the ads. And what it usually does is it gives me a little notification on my YouTube studio, and I'm able to click skip. So either I miss the skip button, or it's just not showing it to me now because I've skipped every single ad that's ever come up on the stream because I know how annoying that could be. And maybe YouTube's finally figured out that this guy's never going to let an ad go through, and now they're just doing it automatically. If it happens again, please let me know, because it's supposed to give me a notification that gives me an option to skip the ad. So if they're not doing that anymore, then that really sucks. If you do get an ad, what I'd suggest doing, honestly, maybe just put a chat in there. So if I see you're seeing an ad, then I can just we can go over comments and stuff, and by the time it's over, we can get back to the actual meat. So yeah, I'm not about having the ads. Damn it, I think I missed some of these. Michael Sand says, No Fault was sold as a law to help men get custody of young children since the younger years doctrine favored women. Was it really? So No Fault was sold as the kind of solution for that. Interesting. So if there was equality, so going off the Equal Rights Amendment, then that would mean like fathers' rights over custody are supposed to matter also. But then none of that ever happened. Since the younger years doctrine favored women because they are women, the best interest of the child was supposed to give men a shot. Wow, that's actually really interesting right there. So that's how that was some of the propaganda they used. And then as soon as it went through, nobody cared. Mr. Pitt says, FL recently made 50-50 child custody a default in family law judgments. Does that count? I think it does, but I heard something that they did that and it didn't pass. Let me see if I could pull that up right now, and I might be wrong. So if you're seeing it, Florida, if you're seeing anything else, just please let me know. Where the hell? 50-50 custody law vetoed. I hope that it actually did pass. This is kind of old news right here. This is from 20. Okay. Governor vetoes. So I'm seeing from June 2022 that it was vetoed, but maybe they passed it again. If it's actually passed, then that's a positive thing. And you would have successfully answered the prior question, which means something was finally done to help men. Good. That's a great thing. And honestly, that's something that can at least kind of incentivize marriage, or at least, being the legal father. So, hey, how you doing? Iba Besteta from Twitch. Welcome in. Great to have you here. You're kind of alone over there on the Twitch, where most of us are here on YouTube, but welcome in. I had to suffer to 3 ads to even get into the stream. That's new. Damn, I see. Maybe I did something wrong on my end, because each time when it asked me to monetize, it asked me if I want to be conservative or not, and I usually hit that, and then I hit skip whenever it does it. So I may have done something wrong on my end. So I hope that's not the case. Can't hear. They got an ad. Oh, damn it. By the way, it's no problem, brother. I appreciate that. I'll try to look into that especially for the next stream, because I don't want the ads. I mean, frankly, the ads do nothing for me. You know what I mean? All it does is ruin the flow of the show. Maybe I'll get like 4 cents. You know what I mean? So it's just, if it's up to me, there's no ads. But the problem is you can't select no ads. Like, you have to say, I want the minimum amount of ads. And then each time it's like I'm playing a video game where I'm trying to swat the ads away. It was implemented in 2023. Okay, beautiful. That's actually really, really good news. The very least they're doing that. Because if it starts out, because right now, and especially when we listen to Father X's videos, his just starts off right away at her having 100%, him having 0. And that's because he went through a false domestic abuse allegation, which didn't happen. It was all a lie. But it set him down the path for 4 years trying to fight for custody with the lawyer, so many testimonies and trial. And then finally he got custody of his child. And that is, I guess, a fear for Florida. Hopefully people won't do that. Maybe it won't be a thing. Maybe they'll be smart enough, but with the 50-50 law thing, like, you could have someone plan to try to do a false domestic abuse allegation to then maybe override that to try to get it. But, I don't want to be negative like that. Hopefully that's just not the case. I guess the ads are individual. I see.
Honestly, don't think there was one.
Are men struggling more from systemic problems or individual problems?
Individual.
Why are we telling men to go to the gym, get rich, and find individual solutions, as opposed to society doing more to help men on the systemic level?
Yeah, I do feel it is unfair. Men's emotions are taken for granted a lot.
You wouldn't have individual problems if it wasn't for the systemic problems. The systemic problems have impacted men's mental health and their social standings in their own families and households.
I don't know who this guy is, but it looks like a hot day in Vegas. But he knows what he's talking about.
So therefore, of course, it weigh heavy on them and cause individual problems, which they are not getting help for.
It's not about society not helping men, but men act real macho, real strong, like everything is good.
Okay, I can see that. Maybe that's a TradCon issue. What's the YouTube asks? Let me see if I'll put that in here. This is Shah. There we go. And no worries, man. If you want to just hang out on Twitch, that's no problem. I do need to do some gaming on Twitch, which I've completely neglected. Before I streamed on YouTube or started talking about child support, I was still working at child support. So the only streaming I would do was on Twitch, and it was me playing video games. But my plan is to kind of just do more gaming streams on Twitch, just so I don't bog it down over here. And people are just like, what the hell? Where's the child support talk? But I do reserve the right to talk about things that are not child support, because I will lose my mind if this is the only thing I talk about. But, it's a lot of it. Nah, there's too many ads over here, and screw that. Oh, there's hella ads on Twitch too. Yeah, I forgot. Twitch became a wasteland.
But if they were to go out there and protest like they need help or they feel like their body, their choice, they would be able to have that voice behind them.
You know, I do think she makes a good point about that. I think there is this aspect of men not sort of collectively coming together to try and protest. Or I think men's rights advocates had that for some time. Men's rights advocates had that for some time. You know what? Let me show you something here. And I saw this on Twitter today. And it was actually, I reposted it on my page because I liked it so freaking much. Let me see. Come on. Let's not make this too hard now. Paul, right here. So we had a Paul Elam quote tweet of It's Complicated Channel, who were watching. And he said, how did the red pill go from being about male disposability and men's rights to being about self-improvement and dating advice? I was actually going to make a standalone video about this, but this is a voice for men. Take the red pill. And this is Paul Elam's original site that I think got shut down. And he had been using the sort of red pill metaphor for a long time on that site. And that was way before, the red pill we know and love on YouTube was here. It was before, what is it? Like Rollo and even the subreddit. So what we're used to hearing from Rollo was that, red pill kind of came out of his side and, it was a praxeology and all that. But the truth is that there is a contending argument for really where the red pill was coined. And it seems to actually be originally a men's rights thing. And what it originally meant was like going MGTOW, basically. It was like, you take the red pill because you were essentially understanding the situation that we're in and you were just walking away from it. That was the unplugging. And then it got co-opted by what's essentially, the pickup artistry and all that stuff. So there is this interesting competing argument for that, which I find pretty interesting. Just to read this just totally. Today is the 15th anniversary of the launch of A Voice for Men. 15 years ago today, we began to shine a very bright light on gynocentrism, toxic femininity, false accusations, paternity fraud, misandry, and the rampant, hateful lies of feminism. Of all the things I've been involved with in advocacy for men, it is the thing which I'm most proud. A small group of idealistic people nobody ever heard of lit a match under society's ass and caused a ruckus we now see the reverberations of everywhere. To all the people involved over the years, thank you. You all put down your indelible marks. To all the detractors, you can suck it. And then so that's where we saw what was essentially a response from It's Complicated. Yeah, so that's how we got this, which is It's Complicated saying, how did the red pill go from being about male disposability and men's rights to being about self-improvement and dating advice? So there's a story here. And a lot of these guys that were in the space for a while, they know that this is the case. And you have Paul Elam responding saying it didn't. All that PUA stuff is just blue pill calling itself red. So this is a big statement right here. You know how we call TradCons 1.0 and TradCons 2.0? This is basically what he's saying. This is the Alpha Simps. You remember we watched that episode Alpha Simps? So there's some interesting conversation to be had on this point. I really think so. So we should talk more about that. Too many ads. Michael Sayan says there is no such thing as mental health problems. It's all a lie. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, well, let's just diagnose this for everything. And anytime there's an issue, like maybe you have actual real life problems, but they're just gonna say that's something. It's basically a way of like, listen. So when I worked at child support, there was this coworker I had. I love this guy. And, when we would meet with the parents, sometimes they would sit there and tell us their whole life story. You know what I mean? Now, they were paying me by the hour, so I didn't mind listening to it. Some of them would be incredibly compelling. But this guy just did not have the patience to listen to any of that. He's just like, whatever it was. And when they were kind of like really getting long-winded, what he would say is like, his magic word, he's like, I would really think about going to counseling. Yeah, I would just go to counseling. Counseling's the thing. And that was his way of just like being like, all right, come on, wrap it up. It's basically it's just like, hey, can you just get out of my face and just go focus on your mental health? Yeah, and I gotta have ads on YouTube. Oh God, I know. You know, I know everybody doesn't have premium. I got premium for myself because, man, the ads are just too much for me. Also, I can hear you much better now compared to Twitch. Ooh, that's actually interesting to know. I wonder why that's the case. That's weird. I'm multi-streaming from Restream, so that's weird. Thanks for telling me that, though. Everyone believes women. Yo, Steve Sandman. Oh, yeah, guys, I forgot to tell you. On Wednesday, I'm going to be on a Steve Sandman show. So he actually did he reached out to me through email. Let me see if I can pull up his channel for you guys. So this is going to be Wednesday at about 4:45 California time. So I'm not sure how, I know you guys are used to watching me at a specific time, so no pressure. But maybe you guys can go after the fact. I'll make a YouTube post about it so you guys can go after the fact. There we go. Baskerville Solution. So this is this channel. It's a small channel, but him and I were actually on Pearl Daily together. So I think the second time I was on Pearl's show, Steve was on there with me, and then with another guy named Nick. So I'm gonna be on his channel, and we're gonna be having a discussion about. Well, I don't want to announce it because it's his channel, and see, there I go, ruining the surprise birthday party again. But yeah, so maybe check out the channel. Oh crap. And the channel is called The Resurgence. I'm going to put that in the chat. Thanks for being in here, Steve. I appreciate you, man. Paste. There we go. Hey, Dr. Baskerville commented on your... Oh, yeah. Okay, I saw this. That's right. That's pretty cool. Anyways, we'll get back to that. So, yeah, Wednesday I will share that stream with you guys if you guys can't catch it. So... But, yeah, Steve says everyone... believes women. Yeah, I mean, right off rip, that is true. Mr. Pitt says, I remember MGTOW PUAs having the market cornered back in 2012, 2013. There was no in-between. Yeah, I would be interested to hear more about kind of what you remember from that time. Because the truth for me is, like, I graduated college in 2012. And I didn't find that Red Pill subreddit until about after that. So after that happened, then I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I started reading about it. And I just remember the subreddit for years until like COVID time. And so many of these guys on YouTube and ladies started taking off talking about this stuff. Edda says, oh boy, I just have ad block. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I know YouTube's kind of cracking down on the ad block. So, it's a real... cops and robbers game. Enter Sandman. I am a woman, and I don't think everyone should believe women. Wow, yeah, I'd be interested to hear your views. And shout out to you. I think there's you and then possibly Kinky Minx. She might be on the Twitch side. She usually watches me on Twitch. She's also one of the resident ladies that watches This Is Shah. So grateful to have you here, Edda, and yeah, please feel free to share your opinion. We were not all gonna, come after you. It's okay. Everything's cool. Just got an ad on YouTube. Damn, they're coming hard today. Yeah, and I'm not getting the warnings. Crap, I feel like I may have forgotten to hit a setting when I was putting the stream on today. I feel really bad now, guys. I'm sorry. Oh, geez, you don't want to get me started. Well, feel free. If you see anything in here, let us know.
If men didn't have the right to vote, how likely would women fight to give men that right?
Honestly, it's still a 50-50 shot. There's some women out there that do believe men have the right, but there are women out there that are just overpowered with themselves.
How likely would women fight to give men that right?
Not as much as the men have supported the women.
See, that's what we're missing right there. I mean, we need women like Edda who maybe can recognize some of the stuff we're dealing with. And the fact is, with the way the voting system is, it's like you do need some contingent of women to be able to see things our way, to help push change through if it's going to happen. Now, that was supposed to be the TradCon women, right? Those were supposed to be the ones that were all pro-family and everything. And, well, It didn't end up being that way because they ended up just being undercover feminists. Oh, geez, you don't want to get me started. Michael's like, I want to. All right, yeah, you guys are going to have fun in the chat. Sorry, I can't help but read this. Well, first of all, men have it way rougher, in my opinion. Oh, God. Etta, let me ask you, do you have sons? Like, you must either have grown up with brothers or you have sons or you got nephews. Something like that. Oh, here's Steve Salmon says, the Wednesday topic will be men want RSVP, respect, sexual variety, and peace. Okay, yeah, so that's what we're going to be discussing on Steve Sandman's show, is what men want. So I'm looking forward to that. And, you know, I'm sure it'll be a fun and lively discussion. Again, you know, we're all small channels, but that's what makes it more fun and more organic. You know what I mean? Get Etta started. I have premium, so no ads. Thank God, man. Shout out to premium. And I do think some women shouldn't vote. Yeah, and it's like, as a creator, you want to have premium, too. Because it's like, if I'm reacting to stuff and an ad comes up every couple minutes, it just can't happen. Like, there's no way. Viewer activity. Oh, nice. It shows it on there. And I do think some women shouldn't vote. I see. Not all. Love to hear what Etta has to say, what brought her to your show. Yeah, it looks like Etta just kind of found me on Twitch. Like I say, men matter just as much. No kids for me, but I have brothers. Yeah, see, that's what I was guessing, because you probably saw kind of, you know, just hopefully they're doing okay, you know what I mean? But I kind of, just to give you some of my background, everybody's heard this a million times, so I'll just do this in 2 sentences. But I worked at a child support agency for 5 years. So that's where I kind of got my eye on the system, and I was like, oh, man, this ain't looking good. I'm never having kids, LOL. Let's see. Women need to be well educated with the system and such to vote, in my opinion. Honestly, that goes for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, you can see this in other countries, right, where they have basically tried to copy and paste the democracy. Some places, I mean, you might have like a literacy rate of like 50%, right? But, you know, everybody gets a vote. And what that does is it makes people very easily susceptible to persuasion. You know, but even in the U.S., I guess there is this kind of thing, like there is this mob mentality. There is this kind of appeasing the beast, this electricity that takes people. We have so much information out here that we're inundated with information. So like, people still end up falling. It's just easier to be like, okay, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, and to think in this binary. And so that makes it tough here because we're inundated with propaganda just up the wazoo. Yeah, it definitely goes both ways.
How can we label society as a patriarchy where men oppress women when men don't give a crap about their own issues?
It's a good question. I never really thought about it in that way.
Men are pretty simple creatures.
You know, that's kind of true. And I think a lot of men haven't really thought about it in that way. I think a lot of guys, you know, in the beginning, guys are just trying to figure out whatever. How do I get women to notice me and stuff like that? And that's kind of a lot of people's issues. Now, MGTOW was originally different. Like, that wasn't really young guys. That was older guys who had went through divorce. So it's not like they had a problem getting women, right? Like, they'd obviously been married and had families, a lot of these folks. And they either got railroaded through the court system or just went through nasty divorces, and then they became MGTOW, you know what I mean? And then there was this contingent of, you know, people that were younger, and they'd never gotten married, but they're like, damn, dating is tough right now. So they ended up with the PUA stuff, and then the MGTOW and the PUA guys were kind of doing their thing. But yeah, so, I mean, I think a lot of guys, if you're kind of starting up, especially younger, and you didn't go through the divorce system or have anything to do with it, you probably weren't thinking about men's rights as much and more thinking about, like, the PUA stuff. But once the PUA stuff gets figured out and you do that, at a certain point, it's like, okay, well, all right, now what? You know, yeah, you could choose to get married, then those guys get put through the system, or they're like, they've seen so many people in their family go through it. So it's like we have these collective issues that isn't just some young guy trying to, you know, get some. You know what I mean? Michael Sand says, we the people have supremacy. Mob rules. Well, that could be good and bad sometimes, and that's why they made us a republic to try to curtail some of the more negative aspects of the mob mentality, right? But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I definitely hear the spirit of that. Etta says dating sucks butt right now. It does suck. It sucks for everybody, whether you're a man or woman. It sucks for guys on the front end, sometimes on the back end after you get married. Then for women, it's harder for you guys, for you ladies, to get married, because as the guys start to walk away and figure out, you know what, this marriage thing is kind of a pain in the ass. We're going to go over Father X's videos next week, and we're going to hear all about his custody battle and how hard that was. That makes guys less likely to want to marry and start a family, even though that's kind of what they want. You know what I mean? I mean, it is what they want. But then when it's just like the cost is so high, the cost is very high for everybody. Then you as a lady, you end up getting manipulated and kind of played by the pickup artist guys. You get gamed 4 or 5 years into it. They don't want to marry you. Thought they wanted to marry you. Now you're pissed. You know what I mean? And then it's just like, it's just a negative spiral all around. So everybody's just gaming. I'm 26 and the dating world sucks. Damn. I think you're giving our channel a very interesting perspective, just because men are saying the same thing and women are saying the same thing. The Bible does not allow dating, only marriage. That's true.
Give them toys, help them relieve their desires, if you know what I mean. And put good food and drink in their belly, and then that's all it really takes for them. But women, they're more complicated creatures. You got to care about their emotions, their feelings, where they want to go, what they want to do. It's a lot more to it.
I think the reason that is largely because of the laws we have set up, right? So if a guy feels like he has the sword of Damocles hanging over his head, then, maybe he has to be concerned with a lot of that stuff a lot more than otherwise is normal, Mr. Pitt says, back in 2012, both communities acknowledged that dating was kind of starting to suck, but MGTOW was essentially for the black pill dudes, and the PUA community was for guys trying to run game anyway. I see. Yeah, and then, I have a recording of Whisper, who was one of the original contributors to the original, Red Pill subreddit, and he talked about how it was made, and essentially it was this guy named, he had a username called PK Atheist, so that's already something. The guy had atheist in his username, but he was like this Republican guy. I think he was even like a small-time politician, but he created the Red Pill subreddit, and that became the sort of haven for discussing intersexual dynamics on the Reddit. And then the Reddit, got pretty popular until it was finally quarantined, and that was the official word. Reddit quarantined it for hate and all that stuff. And I think, that rolled over into a lot of the YouTube channels and all that. And then I think a lot more people just kind of recognized it for more PUA intersexual dynamic stuff, but kind of forgot about the men's rights. The part I like about this discussion with Paul Elam, and it's complicated, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain a smooth streaming. You guys might be getting some drop frames. So if the quality's looking bad, just let me know. That kind of sucks. Open widget. Yeah. Hopefully it's not so bad. Hopefully you guys are seeing me clear. But anyways, I like the fact that there is some red pill terminology associated with the original men's rights MGTOW guys, because that gives us justification to say, hey, this is red pill. It's not just the PUA stuff, because a lot of times you'll hear people saying that no, red pill's not about any political movements. It's not about anything like that. It's just about intersexual dynamics. That's the famous Rollo sort of maxim right there, the praxeology. But that's not actually true. It actually is also rooted in men's rights. So that gives me justification, essentially, to be able to discuss men's rights in that lens, and to actually try to call for men to kind of unite under that, without feeling like I'm hijacking red pill, The Bible said SA was okay. Well, every religion kind of has its dark secrets. Now, and I do my best to respect everybody's religion as, much as I can. I do respect it. I will be honest and straightforward. I do advocate for a secular, I think, overarching governing body. And I know some people disagree. Like if someone is a staunch Christian or whatever, like some people might be a Christian nationalist or whatever. But I think the only way we're going to have so many different elements of people living together is at the end of the day, you do got to have some kind of secular system. And it's supposed to keep each of these different groups, you know, at least checked to a certain degree so they don't take over to the effect where they impose their values onto people who might not have those beliefs, right? That's the issue. So, you know, MGTOW PUAs each had their own series of online forums and websites. Man, Mr. Pate, so you were probably there from like back in the day. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I remember hearing about like the older websites, but I wasn't around back then to go on them. Like I've heard about like So Suave or I think Return of Kings. Then we know Paul Elam's A Voice for Men. Gynocentrism is Peter Wright's site. So there was this kind of primordial soup going on. And it's interesting to think about it. We are complicated, yes, because we're not simple and we're more emotional than men. Well, yeah, that's the typical, you know, that is the typical, stereotypical, you know, differences there. I won't even lie to you guys. I mean, like, I understand why people say that. Sometimes I think that might even not be true. Though, actually, when I think about many of my experiences with past girlfriends, then I'm like, actually, never mind. Sometimes women will have a lot of thoughts in their mind at one time. And, like, a woman could talk to you so fast, it'll make you feel like you're going to pass out. Because if you're actually trying to listen to 100% of it, like, you can't breathe anymore. And then you're just like, oh, damn, like, you got to calm down. I thought I had anxiety when I was younger until, like, I really started getting closer to women. Then I was like, damn. Like, you just need to take a deep breath and relax. Everything's chill. Nothing's wrong. You know what I mean? Michael Sand says, I just wrote a book on essay in the Bible. There is no essay in marriage. Oh, God. I'd love to read that one as well. Looks great here. Stream is fine. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Sky Daddy. Shadrach, I think, is our resident atheist. Shout out to you. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shadrach. Michael says, morality is universal. The law is to regulate morality. Therefore, all should agree to the majority of laws to govern people. That's true. I mean, that's an interesting point. I think it is true. I mean, especially if you're going to live as an American, I guess another way to say it is that there should be some overarching set of values that people feel is distinctly, you know, whatever country you're living in. Now, the tough part is when we're kind of like, you got to put yourself in an immigrant's shoes for a second. You know what I mean? Like, you come here from another country. Let's say you came here even legally speaking, right? And then, like, suddenly you get here and it's like coming into a house that has mommy and daddy fighting, right? Like, one side is saying, like, no, everybody gets to be what they want. You know, it doesn't matter. You can identify as this. Oh, we're so happy you're here as an immigrant. You know, like, this is perfect. We're a melting pot of cultures. Just read what it says on the Statue of Liberty. Then the other side is just like, we don't want you guys here. You know what I mean? And not like, you know, they got their valid arguments on the other side. This is a country of these values, you know what I mean? Whether it be religious or otherwise. So if you're this newcomer and you're looking and it's like one side's telling you this, the other side's telling you that. It's kind of like being a kid where like the parents are divorced or going through a divorce and the kid is kind of able to play one side against the other, or they're both vying for attention. And then it's just like, there's no united front there. So you have these two almost equally powerful morality value systems competing with each other. And it starts to become pretty bipolar, I guess. I only visited those sites briefly, but discovering the manosphere again brought back quite a few memories. Yeah, the earliest memories I have is just reading the Red Pill subreddit. And back then, bro, it was like Fight Club. Like, you were not supposed to talk about it, right? It was like the first rule about it is you don't talk about it. Like, there's no point in doing that. There's no point on ever bringing this stuff up to anybody. Like, you're not going to convince nobody. That's where the whole, I can't remember the maxim, but you cannot negotiate attraction came from. It just was not cool to do that. It was just this thing. It was just this little thing you had in your back pocket, you know, and some guys just chose to do that. But then, you know, then it became mainstream. I have dated men more emotional than me. I'm chill compared to most women. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking of. You know, like there's definitely emotional outbursts with guys. They tend to manifest in our own specific masculine way.
It's because most of the time, most of the things that men do, most of the decisions men make, you know what I mean, they have women in mind for some reason. Like when a man gets money, when a man gets fly.
Etta, I want you to watch my video on dowry. If you get a chance, I'd be interested to hear your opinion on that.
It's to impress a woman. When a man's on some tough...
Kind of a running joke we have around here is like when we see something, and if we were watching a video last week and the woman was so insufferable, we're like, I wonder how much dowry like you'd have to receive to want to marry her. Michael Sand says law is to regulate morality. The problem is when the law goes beyond regulating morality to regulating behavior. See, that's interesting right here. And that's a big discussion, right? And that kind of reminds me of the old atheists. God, I don't know if you guys remember this from back. I'll put it in the chat. I don't know if you guys remember this from back in the day, because back when YouTube was new, I used to like watching the creationists versus the atheists and all that. And one of the discussions they'd have that was kind of a big thing was this whole like, well, where does morality come from? Can you have morality, without religion, or some kind of spirituality like that? And I tend to lean on the side of you need some kind of religious thought in order to have morality. And, there's going to be 1,000 arguments against that. There's the video. But, I think this kind of dips into that. The rule of thumb was there must be an injured party. Yeah, and that's how marriage used to work.
Shit, 9 times out of 10 is to protect and impress a woman. So it's normally a woman behind the decision that a man makes.
As men, if we really desire that woman, we should suck it up and go for it. And that's pretty much how all the people in office are probably feeling at the same time. But I think women need to start putting a little extra effort into their end of the deal, though.
If women always had the right to vote, how would our society be different today?
It would be too emotional.
We'd be less respected, just like how a woman's running for president. The other countries see that if a woman gets elected for president, they're going to look at us as weak.
It'd be different, for sure. It'd be more feminine. It'd be basically how it is today, just polluted, brainwashed.
It would be the same as it is today because our society is it's all communism anymore.
I like this guy. He's one of my favorite guys.
We're not a free country no more.
What? Man, that's hella sad to hear that from a veteran. But to be honest, I kind of think he's right, But it's hella sad hearing that. I mean, we're definitely free in some ways. I'm very grateful to be here. But then, when you do think of some recent changes, there does seem to be things that you can't really do, or at least we're heavily regulated. Maybe if I want to put a positive spin on it, Michael says morality is like math. Morality comes from God, not the vote of the masses. Yeah, and that, that also goes into a discussion about objective truth. Is there an objective truth? Aren't behavior and morality intertwined? There are laws against screaming at people. Do those laws regulate morality or regulate behavior? Yeah, see, and then this is where it gets really complex. I mean, and for me especially. And then, I think you start getting discussions of utilitarianism, right? And then it's just okay, you have a human, let's say the human's not religious, but we're all basing this off of freedom. And it's everybody wants to get as much value out of their life as possible. Now, there are certain things you can do that can take away from the value of other people's lives. Now, maybe we can make laws that prevent that, like, for instance, screaming at people or basically harassing them or, certain things that we all agree on. But then the question is can you actually have a sort of just society based off of that, or should it actually be rooted in a belief in God, or at the very least, we all have a cultural mythology that we buy into. And the thing about the United States, I mean, for the most part, it was Christian morality, or you can say religion for the most of it. Now you have, you do have freedom of religion here, and there's different belief structures all around. Now, most people are just trying to live and, do the family thing and all that kind of stuff. Can you have different moral systems under one roof, then regulated and governed by some kind of secular, non-religious system to kind of keep the peace between everybody? And that's kind of what, everybody's yelling about. Yeah, I could have said it better. JP, hey, JP, welcome in. Good to see you, man. Old Ron over there in the Marines hat is speaking facts. He really is. That guy is speaking some serious facts. Honest to God. It is sad and true. Michael says, I meant law is problematic if it is not for regulating morality. Gosh, if it's not for regulating morality, and then what else would it be basically doing? Well, I guess taxes and things like that. JP, shout out to his service if he did serve. Yeah, shout out to him. I think he did. I believe him.
Why do women think that the men in power won't cater to women when they already have?
Cater to this how?
There's all sorts of laws that cater to women. The Violence Against Women Act, Title IX, custody, child support, things like that.
I just feel like that's not stuff that
no fault
cater
divorce.
to women. That's stuff that women need because men don't stay. That's why people aren't building families. They're out here just having babies and shit because they don't know no better.
And again, to be fair, it's like there is responsibility on the woman also for allowing such and such to impregnate her. And the thing that we see a lot in the manosphere is we see a lot of videos, literally self-admitted videos of women saying they want the bad boy or choosing the wrong guy or going after the person that, they know is probably not going to be the best father figure in their life. So we know that.
I mean, aren't there things that men need?
Of course.
So why isn't
now on the other side of that, you got men going after women that, probably aren't going to make good wives. And that's the whole Madonna whore complex thing.
Our society
That's because men is not talking about it. Men don't talk about the shit that females talk about.
See, and that's where I agree with her. Somehow men stop, now we're talking about it. I mean, I think a lot of this is coalescing into a critical mass on the internet. But for a while, it was just self-improvement. You know what I mean? You got to be an Andrew Tate, a hyper-masculine. And that's one thing. I mean, I don't think anybody's not trying to self-improve and make dating easier in that sense. But there needs to be this collective kind of goals from men to try to figure out how do we solve problems that are collectively getting us. Because, even if you become Andrew Tate or some guy like that has a bunch of money and all that stuff, you're still subject to the laws out here. I was gonna say it's way deeper than that. Damn it, I missed what that was referring to.
Is it the fact that men aren't...
But yes, it's complicated.
Speaking about this, or is it the fact that men aren't heard when they do speak up about it?
They're not speaking about it enough. And it could be because they aren't heard as well.
I got to give her credit, I think her last statements there are pretty true.
Women more likely to make snap judgments or be indecisive?
Yes.
Why is it that no woman in history ever knows where we should go eat?
Because we are so undecisive.
When women...
Man, that's so true. That's so true. Yo, big shout out to Arthur Dunn in the house. Welcome in. Great to see you. JP says, you make a very great point, Shah. I hate to steal the term comparing notes, but it's literally that. It really is that. I mean, and that is one thing we can be grateful for social media about.
When we're hungry, our brain does not know what we want to do.
Why do women want to vote and make political decisions if they can't even decide where they should go eat?
That's true. You're right.
We want you.
Arthur says, I hear you're talking about the dowry again. I know. I told myself before the stream started I wasn't going to go on a dowry rant again. I can't stop talking about it. It just seems so interesting to me. Klaus says, men are trained to be competitive and use this approach even where it is not the most effective. Yeah, I mean, you can say that too. I wonder how much of that has to do with the rise of chivalry, and sort of competing for affection or competing for love or putting love at the center of the relationship between men and women, right? Then suddenly there's a new kind of competition between men. And, maybe that's something that was always there. Maybe it's uniquely new because of chivalry. So that's a good question,
you to tell us.
All I know is that, women do know, like they do understand how to pit man against man. My buddy, his wife, so this guy I went to high school with, he's one of my good buddies from high school. And I remember I was a groomsman in his wedding, and his wife, she's cool. One time we were talking, and I can't remember how we got on the conversation, but she told me something about women don't fight, or she was just like, if someone's messing with a woman, we just convince a guy to fight for us. That's what she said. And the way she said it, she was dropping some serious game on me. You know what I mean? She was dropping knowledge. And I do think she's right, because one of the things you'll hear in the space, and this is kind of like a Andrew Wilson talking point, and it's always just well, what are rights? How are rights enforced? And it always goes back to, men enforce the rights. So then what you're supposed to get from that is that, women can't even fight for their rights to get their rights because men are the ones who give it to them. And then, women are, the feminist gets defeated or whatever. But the other side of that is that no, women can fight for their rights because they convince other men to help them get those things. And that's what they're good at doing. I mean, they use their beauty and their charm to do that, where men have a different kind of strength, So that, I've heard that argument so many times, and I always think no, you know what I mean? That when the rights are about to disappear, they're gonna convince some group of guys to help
Where you want to go. Be the man, put your fucking dick down and say, this is where we are going.
If women can't decide where they want to go.
It's funny because of all the quality stuff, but every experience I have for dating, it's like that too. I got to choose every time, and that's just what it is. And that's just what they like. Ed, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Eat, and they want a man to decide for them. How is that mindset different than women not wanting the right to vote because they wanted men to decide for them?
Again, I would agree. I think that, again, they've used that to try to empower one group, right? But there's no logic behind this empowerment.
Because we're already held at a different standard anyways. It's nothing against the actual men, but if our government wants to act like
the actual man, the real man,
we're not as important as men, then you should do the fucking work. I can't, if I want an abortion and I can't get one somewhere, open my fucking door for me.
See, now, there's distinction between a man and a real man. We're either all freaking, oh, sorry. Thank you. We're either all just men or we're all women. And it's what if I said someone wasn't a real woman because she didn't have kids or something like that? You know what I mean? It's just kind of stupid, this whole real man thing. Oh, shoot. Yo, Caesar, big shout out. What's up, Shah? I thought about you last week. Jordan Peterson visited my church in Orange County, California. Ooh, that's interesting. That must have been a packed house. Everyone was acting like they expected him to start walking on water. Oh, damn. I listened to his talk a little. I thought it was a bunch of nonsense. Oh, God. And I know I talked to you guys about this before, but you're bringing up my memories from when Jordan Peterson came to Sacramento. And this is what happens, by the way. They become who they are, and then they just go on the circuit. They're probably paid to do a lot of these talks and things like that. I am very curious what he said. If you don't mind sharing just kind of some thoughts in there. I know I shared last time when an audience member, if he believed in the literal crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, and how he gave this long-winded 25-minute answer and he didn't answer the question. That will forever be Jordan Peterson in my eyes. And I remember after I saw him live, that was I had hit the peak of the Jordan Peterson arc in my life, and it was I think I've been Jordan Petersoned out. Again, thank you so much for the donation. You know what? Actually, this might be an appropriate time to share. I don't know if any of you guys care about this or not. It's not, whatever's easier for you guys, and again, no pressure. I'm just glad folks are here. But I did add a tip page. So this is they got the text to speech or whatever. So the minimum is $10. I wish it would write that here. But if you put a message here, it'll pop up on screen and it'll read the message aloud. Again, I don't know. I just put that there as another option. And I put the minimum because I don't want people to abuse it. I don't think you guys would, but if somebody comes in here and finds it and then they send me like 10 text-to-speech messages for $1 a piece, then that could be pretty bad. But anyways, yeah, so that exists, just so you guys know. Mr. Pitt says, the no true Scotsman argument has always been incredibly annoying. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would be interested to hear what it is about that you don't like. I mean, I can see its manifestation in the sense of like, I can see there being a group of people. Well, I think the sense you mean is when you're trying to argue a point to somebody and then they're like, well, that's not a real man, or that's not a real Christian, or that's not a real Muslim, or that's not a real red pillar. That's what you mean. I thought you meant, like, I was thinking in another sense of like, if you're part of a group and as hard as you try to be part of the group, it's just never good enough. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. That is very annoying. It's basically not wanting to take ownership of stuff, honestly. Shah, what state are you in, if I may ask? I'm in California. So I'm in Sacramento, California. Yeah.
Why do women think the government's treatment of women should somehow correlate to how women should treat men in dating?
Oh, God. Also, if anybody sends a text-to-speech donation, if it doesn't work, just please tell me in the chat and I'll shout you out. I would feel terrible if it didn't work.
Oh, I've been waiting for that one. Okay.
Door for me.
Why do women think the government's treatment of women should somehow correlate to how women should treat men in dating?
Oh, I've been waiting for that one. Okay.
That's an interesting.
My honest opinion is women are getting a little too crazy at this point when it comes to dating. Women are becoming very, very dirty, very dog, catcalling to men. It's a little scary in my opinion.
Since there are so many disenfranchised men, why aren't conservatives and liberals both competing for the male vote? Don't they already use issues like abortion to win over the female vote?
They do use abortion. That's like that's the only thing I see for women. So.
See, that's a good question. I think part of it is men just hand over their votes every 4 years, and they haven't had the fear put into them that like, oh crap, the guy vote isn't guaranteed. Because I don't know, they're just used to getting it. I mean, the polls show guys just always vote for, majority conservatives or whatever. And it might also be because maybe the women vote outnumbers us possibly. I'd have to look at that again. But I think if men really made a bunch of noise and were just like, we're not going to vote this year, we're going to be like MGTOW. If you watch the Stephen Baskerville interview, I had this discussion with them. I don't think he was that big of a fan of it because he really seems to not like Kamala Harris. But it's like, if society's not doing anything to help us, at a certain point, it's like, why are you, if the vote is like money, let's say votes like currency, your vote is worth more if you actually don't use it instead of just handing it to them. Edda says, Cali, LOL. I'd be interested to hear where you're from. Okay, be right back. No true Scotsman allows people to move the goalposts indefinitely. Yeah, exactly. No one ever seems to qualify as a real man. Exactly. And then you get the whole, like, what is a woman?
So why do you think they're not competing for the male vote?
They don't really care.
They're only trying to win over female votes.
Yeah, it's like, why? They just assume the guy vote is coming no matter what.
Why?
Because female apparently have more power over men at this generation, which is crazy.
I think, just as you said, they're using issues like abortion and women's bodies' rights to attract the emotions of women to get us to vote on things that have nothing to do with that.
Again, they're just preying on falsehood, right? That's like saying that there's inequality in pay. That's also false. They've already proven that. Men hold jobs that women don't hold, and women hold jobs that men don't hold.
If women make up about 51% of the U.S. population, why are women considered minorities?
I have no idea. It sounds like a stupid thing, honestly.
I think minorities has to do with less of the population and more of who they feel like is being heard.
Yo, shout out Donald J. DeMarco. I wish I had that sound effect now. I wish I had that sound effect for you. You're going to make me put that sound effect by next week, the Don DeMarco. Watch batteries for earrings. Oh, are you talking about her gauges? Yeah, I've noticed that like the whole time. I just didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I don't know. I gotta be honest. Like some people could pull off gauges. I've never been a big fan of them. It seems a little bit too permanent of a decision for my taste.
They're picking certain people because they already know that they can get that voice and they can use that as propaganda. That's all that really is. I mean, matter of fact, I just got done reading a book about how if you really want somebody to speak up for the voiceless, it can't be the person that's voiceless. It has to be somebody who has a voice that can speak up for that voiceless person, right? So
that's an
with
interesting
men,
point.
they dismissed our problems a long time ago because they've been dealing with the women's rights since the early 1900s. So it's more newer than that because men kind of been in power for such a long time.
Why does our society cater to the minority at the expense of the majority? Isn't a democracy supposed to be majority rule?
I would hope maybe it's because people have heart and they want to fight for, the underdog. So maybe that's why.
I think underdog's a good answer. Also because probably, the minority tends to be the loudest.
Maybe they like attention because a lot of people do root for the other people who help the underdog. So maybe that's why.
Caesar says he was talking about how sacrifice was the center of the community. See, that goes right into male disposability right there. It's just like sacrifice, like, you want to sacrifice and, for the greater good outside of yourself. You know what I mean? Now that could apply to women. You know what I mean? Sacrificing for the family. Like, I think both people can do that. But, of course, and that the reason it's the center of the community is because sacrifice is the center of the community. It was pretty cringe. Doesn't sound particularly groundbreaking, I'll tell you that. Did you have to buy tickets for it? I'm just curious because when he came to Sacramento, I had to. But I'm assuming since it was at a church, probably it was just like the church maybe paid for it, or maybe he even came for free. I mean, I would hope that'd be the case. Unless he's like Tim Pool or Lauren Chen and take $100,000 a video. Can't stand gauges. Yeah. That is an interesting point. Yeah, it's gauges are a little out there. I think I have met people who had gauges and they said they regretted it. I don't know if all people do, but
they're preying on that part of society, hoping that they can get them to side with their views and help them get their agendas across. So they make them feel empowered.
Why do women think that if we have a female president, everything will suddenly become amazing?
It won't. It really will not. I don't think there should be a female president.
Honestly, to be honest, okay, that question, it's more than just a female president. I think people every 4 years get so riled up, and whether it's a female president or it's Donald Trump, like people get really sucked into the whole hype man thing, and it's just like, oh my God, like I want my person to get voted because then everything's gonna be fixed. And it's like, we had 4 years of Trump, we have 4 years or 8 years of Obama, and it's just like, things kind of not really. They don't all just get fixed after that. If anything, there's like an incremental change, maybe, to one side. Or we all get sold out to the corporations. I'm back. Welcome back. What state are you in, Etta? I was just curious from your last comment. Klaus says, yeah, still not going to sacrifice my mental health and finances for marriage. Exactly. You know what they're doing, Klaus? They're coming up to you and they're saying this.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
They're just like, please, Klaus, come save us.
Won't somebody please think of...
Klaus, you gotta think of the children, Klaus. You need to sacrifice yourself. Like, no, thank you.
Lack of IQ, in my opinion. It's because there's no gender that's just gonna heal everything.
A woman becoming president is definitely groundbreaking. It's definitely history being.
You remember when people thought Andrew Tate was gonna come and save everybody? And every few years there's a new hype man. Like that's something that I just think to just be the case. Like a new hype man just comes every couple years. It was Jordan Peterson was a hype man. Andrew Tate was a hype man. Donald Trump is a hype man. Maybe Joe Rogan for a little bit. Hype man and hype ladies. The only issue with including sacrifice in the social contract between the sexes is that the male sacrifice is mandatory while female sacrifice is optional. Yeah, well, that's true, right? If the parity for like being drafted is women give birth, women certainly have the choice to do that or not. Where men, it's like you get drafted and that's the situation. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's it. I mean, if you're going to be expected to sacrifice, it really should be both ways. And at the end of the day, like if it's, let's say, forget about like military, let's say it's for the family or like you're signing a marriage contract. That contract should really require, it should really be a binding contract that's not easily breakable. I mean, marriage, I guess, was supposed to be about sacrifice. So you're saying I'm agreeing to this thing for I mean, if it's from a Western perspective, for the rest of your natural life, you know what I mean? But not really anymore. Oh my God, no. I'm assuming that's for the Andrew Tate savior.
Made, but do they really, when they think about it and they start digging into it, do we really want a woman? Do we really want a woman to run? If we can get emotional in times. We definitely can. We are emotional human beings. Do we really want a woman running the entire United States that also is part of that?
We have a female vice president right now. If something was to happen to Biden, she would be president. So what's the difference?
Do you know any women who don't?
I mean, that's a good. I mean, God. I mean, if something were to happen to Biden, listen, we don't even know if Biden is like able to tie his shoes in the morning. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it may as well be Kamala in charge right now. I actually don't even know. I'm not even sure anymore. I haven't even seen Biden in a long time. Has anybody seen anything about Biden? Don, I want to call you Don DeMarco so bad. Don says, nice. I like the sound drops. Reminds me of CGA. I think structuring the show in segments could be cool too. Digging your work though, either way. I appreciate that. Did you find me from CGA? Like, are you from a show? Because he reacted to me one time, which was like the shining moment in my YouTube career. I mean, going on Pearl Show was cool and everything. I really mean that. But having CGA react to me, because I watch him every single day. I do get your point about the segmented, where there's a couple stories and it leads up to the main event. I do think that's a great structure for a show, and it would just take a tiny bit of planning. I mean, a little bit of planning, right? It's just like find one article, find a clip, and then have the main event be something like this. Coach does a really great job of planning out his shows. She probably is running stuff now. Yeah, she's gotta be. Yo, Max, welcome in. Oh crap. Yeah, Max, you're right. Please hit the like button if you guys are watching. I gotta remember to ask people to do that. Welcome in, Max. Found you from Pearl. Oh, okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate you coming in here, really. Shout out to the Coach gang. Man, I love Coach. I will pull up his book every second I get. Just to prove it. I legitimately read this. I do have his de-evolution book, but I have not read that one yet. I also bought Rollo's other book on religion, which I haven't got into. I had his original Rational Male, but I just got to see what's in here, like what he has to say about it. It would be interesting to find some tidbits where he really, probably it's not in there, but hopefully there's some interesting perspective. Secular World, love your current nonchalant structure. It's interactive when we get to the points. All right, so we got competing. Well, God willing, with enough practice and experience on this, I can develop my own unique style that will, ideally just work out.
Support feminism.
Oh, yeah, a lot.
I do, actually. I'm one of them that don't support feminism. I believe.
Oh, sure you don't. Okay, and then when you get married and like 7 years in, the bait and switch occurs. Sure you don't. Oh, it's my bad. Huh. Mr. Pitt, for some reason it's not letting me put yours up. Coach gang, we in here. Yep, shout out to Coach.
Everything that women are doing nowadays for their rights is a little too much, in my opinion. They're going a little too far with it.
Why do you think a woman would go against her own self-interest?
It's not a self-interest. Feminism is destroying females. It's destroying traditional men who used to stand up and be, you know, catering to women and open the door and be polite. Now, because of that, men don't feel a need that they need to be polite anymore.
Were you aware that there were women who didn't support having the right to vote in 1920? They were called anti-suffragists.
I did know about it, yeah.
Why do you think those women didn't want the right to vote?
They probably felt the same way I felt, where they felt like the man was just a little bit more strategic.
More men at that time were involved in the politics, stuff like that. The females, matter of fact, I think until 1972, 1974, women couldn't even get credit cards and stuff without their husband signing. So I think at that time, 1920s, they understood. They don't have.
Back then, I think like in any debt your wife had, I think even if you got married and the debt was from before, it kind of became your responsibility as the husband. So you know, if she was going to get a lot of debt or sign up for a bunch of credit cards, eventually it was all going to fall on you, which is why, you know, the guy had the last call on it.
About a dog in the fight.
At the time, I think that they were expected to do as the man says exactly. So they just followed with whatever their husband said. Their husband had the control, so they went with it.
But they just think more clearly when it comes to the politics. Women are too emotional for it, way too emotional for it.
Women had traditional roles of taking care of the house. They're more nurturing. They want to raise the children. They're going to be. A lot of those women understood, like, be at home more, right? The men went out there. They fought the wars. They deserved the ability.
You know, it's interesting. It kind of just makes me think about like how great of an impact the media had, right? Because a lot of what makes people want to abandon their stuff, and it's all about celebrating freedom, or at least the propagandized like version of freedom. You know what I mean? And consumerism, right? Like, just think about how different everybody's dressed in this video, and how everybody spends money on clothes, and people were sold this idea of like you express yourself based off how you dress, and, you know, go to Macy's and do all these things, and it's just like, you know, capitalism, you know, it works, but this kind of hyper capitalist thing where it's like the priority was about making as much money as possible and creating a very consumerist driven society, and I think that's had probably one of the greatest effects on, you know, getting rid of the traditional roles as he calls them before. That's right. Men were responsible for their debts. Yeah. I mean, as the head of the household, it was you were going to be on the hook for that. I can't remember what they call that. Coverture laws. I think it was coverture laws.
Ability to be in the political arenas because they fought those wars. So I think it's just a different mindset, completely different compared to today.
Why do you think that men can't come together and lobby for change the way that women do?
Men definitely can come together.
But why aren't they?
I'm not sure. I think it may be a disconnect with their emotions, or them wanting to tap into issues that they have. You know, men are taught to be macho and not show their feelings, and maybe that.
See, she's right.
That's what it is, or I don't know.
She's right about that. Oh crap! Okay. That was a good way to end it on. Just because, yeah, men really don't. And I just think it's because the way we're conditioned as men, like we're not conditioned to see ourselves as victims, even though men are victims, you know, of custody issues, paternity fraud. There are real issues that make us victims, right? But if you can't see yourself as a victim, then it's like, why would you come together to fight for your stuff collectively? Don DeMarco says, yeah, coverture, the French word for blanket, if you get the imagery. That's pretty cool. That's cool. Now let's just check out some of the just the comments here. So this one's pinned. Anyone notice every women politician regarding their party affiliation never says a word about any kind of support for men whatsoever? Yeah, I don't know if we've heard any, at least women politicians, saying that. Yet we'll be very supportive of women's programs. Example being ever more subsidies for daycare. And honestly, but to a lesser extent, no male politician does anything to enact laws to protect her. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. So then you ask yourself, okay, you know, and I get it. People don't want to be a one-issue voter. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, I'm not a one-issue voter. It makes you sound reductionist. It makes you sound not sophisticated, like you don't understand the nuances of these things, and that, you know, you're just a simple person. But the truth is I mean, like, nobody's doing anything for anybody. It's like, I don't even want to get off the couch on election night. It's just, I'm out of it at this point. You know what I mean? Like I would like guys to make a bunch of noise about that and put the fear into them that, oh crap, we're going to lose. And then hopefully get them to put some kind of platform forward. They want the power of elite men, the benefits of women, of a woman, and the accountability of a child. Women not required to sign for the draft and majority of debt. Repeal the 19th Amendment. I mean, they got to revisit the draft for dang sure. In war, do you have time to drink or hit a vape? It just shows the mockery of war by women. Yeah. We didn't have the right to vote back then. Ben says, yeah, but in order to vote, you would have to go to war. Women, yeah, well, I would go to war just to vote. The loss of shame is the first sign of imbecility. Oh, here we go. The men's rights activists tried to protest about these issues and were ignored. Yeah, I mean, they were. I would love to see a kind of revival of men's rights. Like that would be my goal. That would be my goal is to see a resurgence of it, you know. And I think a lot of the men's rights guys, you know, they're definitely getting older. So I think a lot of us younger guys need to kind of carry that torch for them. Dang, I didn't realize this would take me an hour 50 minutes. I really thought this was going to be quicker. Oh God, and this one's longer. Oh damn. We also got the Tim Pool thing. Man, you know, it might be better to just save this one for another stream. We're 2 hours in. If we do this, we're going to be hitting 4 hours. Or we can just hit this Abba and Preach one about Tim Pool. They got the beanie-less picture. Anybody feel strongly about that? I think I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this one because this is going to be a special episode. So... Damn it. I wanted to give you guys the double feature. Now I feel like I'm just sitting here and I bamboozled everybody. I'm really sorry about that. What did Tim do? Oh, God. Have you not heard? Okay, listen. We're going to save TradCons for the next one. So that's what we're going to do. You know, I think this one's pretty good. We spent 2 hours on it. Saving this for the next one. We're going to watch the Abba and Preach video on this story. Save the long one. Yo, just so you know, the DOJ came out and basically said Tim Pool, I think Dave Rubin and Lauren Chen and Tenet Media were taking money from Russian government officials, essentially, Russian agents, to push Russian propaganda. And they were paying them like $100,000 a video. Some of these guys are getting $400,000 a month to make 4 videos. And that YouTube nuked Lauren Chen's channel. It's gone. It's gone off YouTube. Tenet Media is gone. Tim Pool is still here. I mean, there's some kind of technicality there for him, but it's freaking crazy. Michael says every successful protest has historically had civil disobedience. Yeah, I think MGTOW can kind of work in the vein of that. You know, men just kind of opting out and saying it's like, we're not going to participate in these things. You know, obviously, you know, there's no violence or any kind of stuff like that, but it's just about walking away from stuff, voting with your wallet and voting with your votes by just not voting. You know, and some people are becoming passport bros or they're doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah, save the long one. I'll save it for, oh, damn. Next week, we're supposed to do Father X. We will come back to TradCons, I promise. Like, there's no way I can't react to that. Don DeMarco, I think I saw something where he talked about he has a pic of his youngins or something. Tim Pool definitely has a lot of clips that don't paint him in the best light. All right, let's do this. I think it's the first time I've reacted to an Abba and Preach video on here, but it's 12 minutes. I figure it wouldn't, you know, be bad. So, didn't realize the Russian thing did all that. Only saw the headline. Oh God, yeah, her channel's gone. I don't even think she's. I checked her Twitter earlier. I don't even think she's made a statement. See if she said anything. Yeah, nothing. Look, her last post was September 3rd. So this broke, I think, on the 4th or the 5th. And Lauren, I mean, she's still on X, right? Elon's pretty light-handed when it comes to this, but the channel's gone. And Blaze, so she's a host of Blaze. Blaze has removed her, so she's not part of Blaze anymore. And it turns out like her and her husband basically own this thing called Tenet Media. And they are like, it's really bad. The DOJ is coming after them. We're gonna learn about this right now. So hopefully Abin Preach does a good job of explaining this.
All right, today's topic. Apparently some YouTubers are taking money from Russia, $100,000 per video to make pro-Russian.
Can you imagine that? I mean, $100,000 per video is like outrageous. I don't even think like the biggest YouTubers make that. I mean, at best, what's your stream schedule? Etta asks. I'm only doing one stream a week just to keep it consistent, but it's always Saturdays at 7 p.m. Now, next Saturday, I will not be here. So this is a good time to tell you I'm going to be in the Bay Area next Saturday. But I'm going to do the stream Friday at 7. So I hope that's not too inconvenient for you guys. So unfortunately, there will not be a Saturday stream next week. But typically, it's every Saturday at 7 p.m. except for next week, which is Friday at 7 p.m. So we'll be doing the Father X stream then. So yeah, 7 p.m. Saturdays. I do kind of want to put like a Wednesday night stream, 9 p.m. my time. Got it. Oh, so you're probably in like Chicago or something like that. I don't know if you told me what state you're in. All good if you don't want to share, no worries. Yeah, so thanks for asking about that, because I forgot to tell you guys that. That would have been bad. Anyways, yeah, $100,000 for video is like crazy. I don't even know if like Joe Rogan makes that kind of money.
Content.
No. Today's topic. Goddamn. All the naysayers were right.
What you mean?
All the people that was talking about conspiracy were right.
They're part of it?
I mean, shoot. There's a lot of people that was talking about
Wisconsin. Oh, okay, nice. Man, so the thing I want you guys to get from this story is, here's the thing. Like, these guys are in trouble because they're taking a lot of money from Russia, right? And this is like directly against U.S. interest. And it's not even just that it's from Russia and that it's about Ukraine and stuff. It's very specifically about like election interference. And the U.S. government is very like wary this time of any kind of possible international interference, especially Russia, because that was a big story last time. I remember that. But they're kind of on it, and they put these guys out to dry. But you have to think, like, what other entities exist out there that like aren't like foreign things, or whether it's like who pays the Daily Wire, like what are big conservative backing things? Like, why don't tradcons talk about men's issues? Like, are there people out there paying them to kind of stay away from those issues? That's kind of conspiratorial. It is a little tinfoil hat. I haven't pulled out my tinfoil hat in a while, but maybe men's issues have been sort of sidelined because big money donors just don't like them talking about that. It's very possible, and maybe someday we'll find that out.
Oh, Russia this and Russia that, and they got it. They do.
Now look.
I thought the Cold War was over. It was never over, Abba.
So here are the details. Tim Pool, Dave Dubin, Lauren Southern, Lauren Chen.
Damn, Lauren Southern's involved too. Damn, they got both Laurens.
Lauren White. There's a lot of Lawrence and some other male names, okay? They're all implicated in this scheme. Essentially what is going on is the DOJ released or unsealed an indictment, and in that it talked about a scheme where a Russian company was essentially paying Lauren Chen and her husband to run an American company called Tenet, which you could go and find their YouTube channel.
See, this makes me wonder, it sounds like what he's saying is that Tenet Media was created almost with Russian money. So maybe from its inception. And I always wondered, because it didn't make sense, because every now and then I'd pop over to see Tim Pool, and then I saw him on Tenet Media for some things, and I was like, why the hell is Tim Pool doing this on this company? Like, why would he make Tenet Media? Why doesn't he just do this on his Tim Pool channel? I don't get it. Like, this is making me having to bounce around. So if it was because of something like this, now it makes a lot of sense.
And they would pay creators to make content that was pro-Russian on their channel. Okay?
That is just so crazy. I mean, I think anybody who's a creator can learn from this. Like, it is not worth it to take money from the United States adversaries I mean, I get it. You know, a lot of us are trying to make it out here, but yeah, that is not worth it. Mr. Pitt says it makes you wonder what other kinds of special interest groups are out there paying. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I just have to feel like, you know, this is just like one of those looks into the industry, right? And like, if you read the DOJ indictment, it's just going to tell you how all this stuff works. Now, the only reason we're seeing it is because this very specifically has to do with the election in Russia. But this probably happens every day with all kinds of other organizations that just aren't anything the government really cares about that much. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to send the DOJ after them. But there's probably contracts up the butt, you know what I mean? Like, all these people probably got contracts with somebody. And if you hear them talking about a certain thing and be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Why are they so up in arms about this suddenly? Then it might give you a clue. They can pay me $100,000 to not talk about men's issues. No. Oh, God. Right, it was odd. Rolo appeared on Tenet broadcast with Tim. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, too. I mean, you know, I'd like to think Rolo's not involved in that, but yeah, it's weird. It's like, why not just go on Tim Pool's show? Like, I don't know. Instead, it's the Tenet thing. You know what I mean? So it's just really weird.
How much, like $10,000?
Some of them were getting paid as much as $100,000 per video.
That's a whole lot of money.
Now, there's not just mere allegations. The people who were claimed to have been paid that amount admit that they were paid that amount. They've made public Twitter statements, and they're also saying they're victims. They didn't know this money was coming from Russia.
It's crazy that the Russians would think that it's literally worth $100,000 US to get a video. I mean, listen, they're obviously very big creators, but I mean, I don't know, Lauren Chen, Dave Rubin, they're big creators. They're big creators, but $100,000 for a video, that just doesn't seem, that seems so disproportionate. I don't know why they would think that. I guess those people have that much influence to where it has something like that, but I think there was more of a long-term goal here. Like, it was more about creating Tenet Media, and then ideally Tenet Media would get really big, and it would be this kind of front piece for, you know, kind of shilling some of these talking points. And maybe they had like a 20-year plan on this, but it just didn't work. The DOJ got them. Good for the DOJ for getting these people. Rainbow interest groups have to be doing a lot of influencing worse than Russia, in my view. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, you know, it could even be like abortion or even a lot of things, right? So it just makes you wonder. I don't know. I wish I knew where to look to find out about some of this stuff. Now you want to be careful what trees you go barking up. I mean, you know, there are special agents lurking in the shadows. There are people listening to us right now. Of course, they wouldn't need to put any special equipment in my room. They can just go to my YouTube channel. But you know what I mean.
They didn't know this money was coming from shady places. What we can confirm right
now. I agree with Donald J. Yeah. I mean, and it is all special interest groups. It's lobbying. You know, Ed, I'll see you Friday. I'm gonna hop off. Hey, I appreciate you hanging out. Thanks for coming in and just being so freaking cool. So maybe we'll see you next time. Also. But yeah, Michael, I don't know. It just has me thinking, because sometimes you're like, why won't this creator say something that's like really obvious? Like, why aren't they talking about this issue? And it almost has to be because they're being paid not to, you know. I love your Halo figure. Yeah, oh man, I love this thing. I got a little Optimus Primal here now, but yeah, I mean, if you ever do watch me on Twitch and I'm playing a video game, it's 90% chance it's going to be that or like a Mario game.
Now is that Lauren Chen and her husband were definitely knew where the money came from. That information is in the indictment. You know how they...
Yeah, so that's another thing, because some of them are trying to make it seem like they didn't know. Like Tim Pool's trying to say he's a victim. Dave Rubin's trying to say he's a victim. But it's like you're getting paid $100,000 a video. They're telling you what to say. It's like, these are supposed to be people we rely on, that are supposed to be smart people that interpret all of these events and put it into a nice, clean narrative for us so that we can go to work every day and maybe have some understanding of what's going on out there. And you're going to say, like, they didn't know they were victims? That doesn't make any sense.
They knew because when they were not getting their invoices paid out, they were Googling what time it was in Russia. They were referring to them in their own private messages as, oh, when are the Russians going to pay us?
Oh God, yeah, that's in the indictment too. So I don't know if I think they might have tapped their phones or their emails, or maybe they didn't tap like Lauren Chen or Tim Pool's phone, but they definitely got the Russian people on the other side. So they probably went through a backdoor on like WhatsApp or whatever the heck they're using, and they got all these conversations and emails and things. I mean, it's over. It's over for them.
So them motherfuckers definitely knew.
They knew.
Now, whether or not Dave Dubin knew or Tim Drool knew, that's a different question.
But I got this question though.
Vas-y.
They're asking you to do some specific content. When people ask you to do some specific content,
what you mean?
Like, cause they saying,
I'm a victim.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't know what the money. But when someone tells you, make a content about them, make a content about them.
Yeah.
What you mean? Make a content about them, and then you're like, I don't know where the money from. Just this, not knowing where the money's from, it's weird.
You know why it's hard for?
I feel like we're gonna just hear some stupid things coming out of this. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna try their best to deny. It would be nice if one of them could take ownership and be like, you know what, I messed up. Tim Pool comes out, he's like, I messed up. I don't know. I don't know what came over me. When they offered me American money and it wasn't rubles, I thought it was gonna be okay. I don't know what they're gonna say.
For me to believe that these people didn't know.
That's what I'm saying though. That's one
it's
of the
because
reasons why.
it's so much money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money, man.
It's not like a regular, we get brand deals, and you'll have brand deals. Like I can tell you,
let's be honest, $100,000 for a video. Let's say it takes me like 3 hours to make a video, from filming to editing, uploading, making the thumbnail, putting the description, and all this kind of stuff. 3 hours essentially of work and $100,000. Come on.
Like for a 1 million view video,
and they already told you what to say.
A brand deal will range anywhere from like $8,000 to $12,000. And if you're like a finance bro who does just finance stuff, a finance company might give you $20,000-$30,000. Okay, but that's for millions of views. The videos that they were getting paid $100,000 for, do you know how much views they were getting on some of these videos?
Tell me.
1,000 views.
Oh my God, I didn't know it was that low. I mean, I knew that they weren't like as popular as they were back in the day. Like, I don't think Tim Pool's pushing crazy numbers. I definitely don't think Lauren Chen was. And Tenet Media wasn't, because Tenet Media seemed to have a low amount of subscribers. So then that makes me wonder, it's like, why would they be paying $100,000 for a video that they know is not going to get that many views? And it's not like they paid them once and where it's like, man, these people are whack. They paid them hella times. Maybe it was contract or something. I don't know. That's just crazy. Greed. Yeah, that's why they did it. That's the sad part too. And a lot of these people are out here talking about morality and all these kinds of things, but they're out here selling their souls for money. It's sad. It's sad. God help us all. I can only just pray and hope that, I can't sit here and say I'm better than that. That's life-changing money, but all I could do is pray to God that I don't, fall for something like that, because that's terrible. Don DeMarco, that's like being paid per episode as a Friends cast member. Mad money. Yeah, that's unheard of money. And the fact that it's not that the DOJ indictment already said it. It's the fact that they've even admitted that they took that money. I don't know. It's very dirty. It's definitely very dirty. YouTubers, we came to the internet so we could break away from corrupt legacy media. Yeah, exactly, right? They're the outright or the alternative media. Oh God, that's sad. Be free of corporate greed and remain unbiased. Also, YouTubers, takes money to push Russian propaganda. Oh God. Yeah. It sounds really bad when you put it that way. And that's because it is bad. It's definitely bad. I mean, that's some serious bad stuff right there. They took that money and they were like, hell no. I got sound effects for days. They got in the supercar. They were going to take the plane to Moscow. Everything was going to happen. And I don't know. So far, Tim Pool seems to be a little lucky, though. He seems to be lucky because it's Tenet Media that went down, which he's affiliated with. But there's obviously reputational blowback on Tim Pool. So he still has his channel. But we'll see what kind of happens to him. But so far, Lauren Chen and Tenet Media is gone. What's odd is Rubin was already doing well financially, I think. I would like to think all of them were doing well. I mean, Tim Pool, I'm sure Dave Rubin was. I think Dave Rubin was what, the Young Turks before, and then he went over and did his thing. Lauren Chen, I'd like to think she was okay too. I mean, she's big enough. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, God, how much money do you need? You know? But yeah, I don't know. You know, they dangle the money in front of your face, and then it's just like, that's when you really get tested, like spiritually tested. That is when you really get tested. When someone comes to you and offers you money like that, you know what I mean? And you're just like, oh my God, you know, like I can finally buy like my, you know, parents a better home or something. But I don't know. I mean, they're going to say they didn't know. They're going to say they were duped into it and that they didn't really know it was from Russia. They thought it was from this other company that was the shell company. And that's just one thing you don't mess with right there. Like, you do not mess with national security interests, elections, that kind of stuff, and play that game. I mean, you do not want to be on the board of the great game and interfering with that stuff. That's when you start getting like the CIA after you, all these other intelligence, MI6 coming after you. They're all coming after you. Guys that don't even exist in programs because they're the guys that go out there and get the UAPs when they crash. You never even heard of those guys, but they're like the freaking top of the top, and they will come after you, possibly. 100K per episode is a steep price tag. The Russian Federation has deep pockets, but with that sort of price tag, what do they intend to accomplish? Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense. I mean, you got to think the people that were spending that kind of money, it's like, why 100,000? I don't know. I don't really know. The only possible explanation is that there's some kind of long-term game. I mean, maybe they just thought they'd hook them in with this money. They're like, okay, the views are low now, but maybe, you know, over time it would grow and then we would just kind of keep pumping the money. But it seems like a pretty egregious waste of money because those people are not that popular. I don't know. I mean, they're popular, excuse me, but they're not pushing views. Russia is crazy with money. They give star hockey players in North America black cards, no spending limit accounts. I mean, I don't doubt it. Some of those Moscow, St. Petersburg types, you know, it's like that in a lot of countries. Even if like the rest of the people aren't doing that well, there is always this very elite rich class, you know, this kind of nomenclatura, so to speak, from the old Soviet days, that are just there and they're swimming. Even in like very poor third world countries where it's really bad, you will see the people that have more money than like even some people in the United States, you know.
5,000 views. So on a 5,000 view video, you were getting 10 times what somebody gets on a 1 million view. How does that make sense?
You just go shut. No, but some people are good at.
And it's so ridiculous. It's like they had to have been asking themselves, why is someone paying us this much money to do this? I mean, and that's the part where it's like you can't believe that they were victims duped. I mean, they're so smart. You know what I mean? Like these people don't present themselves as like dummies.
Setting up and not asking questions. When it's convenient.
Here's the thing. There's so many layers of this. Like, if you honestly think these people didn't know, then that means that they're the most incompetent, stupid motherfuckers on the planet.
I don't believe.
And then when it comes to like Lauren Chen, we just looked at her Twitter. I mean, let me pull it up again. If she was really like a victim, she would have been out here. It has been since September 3rd since we got anything from her. I think September 3rd or yes, 3rd. The last thing she reposted. Like they would have been out here like, I'm trying to clear my name. I didn't say anything. You know, I didn't know. I was played. I'm a patsy. This was all, you know, but nothing. Look, it's just pure silence. Nothing. We got a pinned tweet from July 9th. Nothing. So she is in there talking with the lawyers. She knows she is in deep, deep crap right now. Deanna the Man says, I heard some theories that they went after Tenet Media after Tim Pool said he was going to sue the Kamala campaign for defamation. Ooh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So you think maybe somebody pulled some strings over at the DOJ and we're just like, let's just can them now. But at the same time, I mean, they had to have been watching this for so long because, I mean, the case is very well presented. If you see the indictment, I mean, obviously, you know, it's coming from, obviously it's the DOJ. So yeah, it's going to be very thorough. But they've been watching for a long time. I mean, maybe they just decided to pull the trigger. But either way, they probably figured it was best time to do it is before the election. It's 2 months before the election. And, you know, they're trying to say, well, it's just an indictment. They haven't been found guilty. They haven't been found guilty. Why did YouTube take their channels away? I don't know. What's YouTube supposed to do? YouTube's out here running a business. Somebody on the platform is being accused by the literal Department of Justice that they're, you know, meddling with the election and doing all this kind of stuff from foreign agents. You know what I mean? YouTube has to make a decision. I mean, do we can the channel or do we wait? Do we wait for Lauren Chen's attorney and these people to make a case and hopefully beat the case? Lauren Chen and Tim Pool or Tenet Media is not that important to YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, hell no. They'll just can the channels and be like, sorry, you're out. And later on, if it comes out that they really weren't guilty, you know, maybe then it would be, they can give them their channels back. But they have to do it now because it has to be before the election. If something happens and there's election interference, YouTube's going to be in Congress. The CEO of YouTube is going to be in Congress answering a bunch of questions like Mark Zuckerberg, you know. Don DeMarc says it's at minimum some STFU about shut the fuck up about Ukraine type money. Exactly. Or at least muddy the waters of the debate type money. Yeah. I mean, it's anything to kind of add a little bit of doubt or disinformation. Just kind of makes you wonder, because when you look at Twitter, sometimes it seems like the same arguments that just keep getting pushed over and over and over again. And these people have a lot of, it's not like the early days of the internet. These people got some serious control over it now. Also, it shows that the DOJ is able to read Discord chat logs. Yeah, I mean, you know, you guys probably saw that guy that owns Telegram, Pavel Durov or something. He was arrested, I think, in France recently. And the rumors were basically that he didn't comply with the state to give them a backdoor into Telegram, basically. And we know they have one for like WhatsApp. I mean, honestly, I think anything on your cell phone, they can probably just see it. You know what I mean? Now, do they care what the heck Shah's talking about? Not really. But it's like the minute you get in trouble, the minute you hit like a tripwire or a trigger, then they'll just go to the database and just see everything. You know what I mean? Child support's like that. You would be surprised if you saw how much information the child support caseworker's computer has on a typical person. We could see so much stuff. If you watch the Baskerville interview, that was one thing I mentioned. Now, mainly that stuff's probably used for like foreign espionage, or if the U.S. is going after a high-profile target, you know, and they use one of these apps, they can probably get a location on them and things like that. So whatever, you know, it's all part of the game. That's just how it goes. But yeah, I mean, you should just assume that if they wanted to, they can see all that stuff. So that's the new world.
And it's their job. Like, the parts that make it unbelievable, it's your job to look at things critically, you guys are a conspiracy brain. You guys believe in a lot of conspiracies and how people are working together to take down different angles of the government. But you're being offered 6 figures to do a disgustingly shit tier video. And you don't think that's suspicious at all? You don't research where the money's coming from. You don't try to track it down. You don't wonder why they want pro-Russian stuff. That's crazy.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to tell them, I'm going to say this. I think they didn't know because they were suspicious about what they knew.
Facts.
The definition,
I can hear the DOJ outside of Abba's apartment right now.
No. It means that you don't know for sure. But it doesn't mean that you don't have suspicions. And because you have those suspicions, you don't ask. You know, whenever you deal in bars and stuff like that,
yeah.
you have suspicions of where certain things is doing or what that guy in the corner is doing.
Yeah.
I didn't ask. I don't know that guy. I don't talk to him. But my suspicions are he does this and that. I don't know for a fact. I don't know.
Plausible deniability.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it really doesn't matter.
No, it does not.
The reason why it doesn't matter whether you knew or not is you should have known. You should have done your due diligence. You should have researched it.
You don't know.
Your job.
I think they really thought it was like they really sat there and somebody in there must have said it's like taking candy from a baby. They're like, this is just too easy. Whatever. And you know the thing is in their minds, they're probably like, it's free speech. It's free speech. I mean, free speech, you could say whatever you want, but it's not free speech. It's paid speech. You know what I mean? So it's like, they're probably going to try to do this free speech thing, but someone was paying them to say something specific. And, you know, they weren't disclosing that. I don't know if there's laws out there for this. I mean, there definitely should be. People should probably have to disclose these things, whether it's YouTubers or politicians or whatever. Like, we should be able to see who's funding that kind of stuff, especially like people with influence. You know, a lot of people might not like that. They might think it's a little too invasive, but I don't know. That might have been something that could have even possibly saved them if there's a system for that, you know. Nah, they're in Canada. Trudeau outside their apartment. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's another. Oh, so that's a great point actually. Lauren Chen is out of Canada too. I wonder how that's going to affect them. Obviously, you know, Canada-U.S. relations are pretty good. So I'm sure their government will work with ours when it comes to this, and it's not going to be like that hard. It's not like you're dealing with some other country where it's going to be questionable. So they'll probably just cooperate and it'll move forward.
As a political commentary, someone who prides themselves on being independently funded, then you're receiving this kind of money and you're just
not
looking.
independent.
That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. I was just astounded by the amount of money that was floating, but then people were telling me like, Abba, you have no idea the amount of people that are getting pushed money to promote a specific view. You have no idea how big, and it makes sense to me now because Lauren Chen lives in Montreal. Okay.
Oh yeah, Abba and Preacher from Canada too. I forgot about that. That's what you meant.
Her and her husband live
Damn,
here.
so her and Lauren Chen. Yeah. Damn. God, that's interesting too. That's just another thing right there. Them being Canadian, but you know, I get it. They're right next door. American politics affects them.
They're from here. It was so bizarre to me to sometimes go check out these people's lifestyle, and they're living exorbitant lifestyles. But I look at their YouTube channel and I know what kind of money they make from the kind of content that they make. I know they don't have the membership viewers for it either. So I'm like, how are you buying homes when I know you barely touching six figures?
That's crazy. So he can see, like, he probably knows all the swank neighborhoods in Montreal and all that stuff. And he's like, damn, how are they living there? Like, what are they doing? Like, how are they getting a freaking $8 million home or something like that? Lauren is in Tennessee. She moved there in hopes of working for the Daily Wire until she criticized Israel. I see. So she was trying to, and you know, Daily Wire is ran by Ben Shapiro, and that's why Candace got canned over there. Candace got canned. That's interesting. I didn't know she was trying to get there. So maybe that's possibly what led her to doing Tenet Media. Either way, Daily Wire is probably like, thank God we didn't hire her. Otherwise, they'd be mixed up in that whole thing. Holy crap. Though I'd like to think Daily Wire would have been way more aware. You know, there's probably a thick contract that they sign, and I'm sure if they worked for like Daily Wire, they'd have to disclose all the money they're getting, and there'd be a significant amount of control over their content. So Daily Wire probably would have never let that happen. Don says, A&P also in Montreal. Mr. Pitt says, they all just went from being watched on the internet to being watched by Interpol in under 24 hours. I know. I mean, we were just watching that stream with Lauren Chen and Pearl, and it was on Tenet Media. Holy crap. I mean, yeah, that is, I don't even know. And, you know, Lauren Chen obviously has Twitter, but she just doesn't want to say anything. The lawyer has probably told her, like, hey, just, no, nothing.
Where's this money coming from? And they're buying fancy spots too. So everything is kind of coming together.
God, it's just such a human thing. It really is the greed. You know what I mean? They'll sit here and be like, the OnlyFans girl's this, the OnlyFans girl's that, the red pillars are bad, the MGTOWs are bad. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. But then they're over here taking $100,000 from like the literal rival of the United States. It's like, I don't even know. Like, who can you trust at this point?
Now it's like, oh, okay. When it comes to the political sphere, a lot of people that you might think are bought and paid for are probably bought and paid for. Now it makes sense to me too when I saw Tucker Carlson run over there to Russia and do all that stuff, irrespective of how you feel about it. I'm just saying, how much money do you if Tim Drool and Rafe Dubin got 100K per video for producing a 1,000 view video. How much do you think Tucker Carlson got paid for that grocery store and that? You could 40 million, 30 million.
Why did you?
For you guys, the viewer, when you see political commentary, okay, be very careful, because some of these people are absolutely bought and paid for, even though they want to relate to you, the average person, and they want to say, I'm just like you. Meanwhile, they get paid $100,000 by a foreign government to betray their own country. Just be careful.
See, yeah, oh man. See, and what's so crazy about the story is that it's just one of those, I said it earlier, it's just one of those rare instances where you get a look inside the industry. You know, it's like the creators start off organically, and then it's like once you hit a certain point, there are just these big companies, these sharks out here just looking to pick people off. I mean, this is the hijacking we always talk about, right? Essentially, Lauren Chen and Tim Pool and Dave Rubin got hijacked by Russian money, right? So it's like the hijacking is just very likely to happen. And yeah, I don't know. We have to just be comfortable for being able to think for ourselves, like all the time. I mean, we have to think for ourselves. There really is just no other choice.
That's the main thing.
A lot of things about that, the political side is not moral. A lot of it is. So whenever I give my opinion about that, I try to stay away from that as much as I can, because I don't know the whole picture. And sometimes it's a lot of things. It's just like wrestling. Yeah. It's really just like wrestling. In the locker room, everybody shakes hands and having fun. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. But in front of everybody, it's just the heel and the superhero. That's what it is. And by the end of the day, everybody's catching a check.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. When I saw 100K per video,
It's
I
crazy.
literally tried to triple take, because I know these guys' YouTube channel. I know they don't get views. They are making 20 to 30 times what I would make on a sponsored video when I have 10 times more views. How does that make sense? That's crazy. If any,
a lot of people were mentioning that too, because like you can look at the viewers, you can look at the social blade, and you can do the math. And yeah, these guys just weren't. They just weren't pulling that kind of money. It's so crazy. Kind of reminds me of like Hawk Tuah Girl, like when you think about the industry. This random Hawk Tuah Girl has this viral moment on somebody else's channel. And it's like there's so much big money out there that like they literally found her. She's charging to be at shows, podcasts. They got her own podcast now. She's just up there instantly because all these like media companies in the background are just looking for this all day. It's like they're looking for the perfect script or something back in the day in Hollywood to make like the next big movie or something. But once like they get bought out, you know, then I don't want to say they have a handler like it's some kind of real conspiracy type stuff, but you know, they're obviously working with the company, and the PR people are going to kind of guide them on what to say and do. Everyone who called TradCon's controlled opposition is having a field day right now. Yeah, I did see some of the stuff from the other side. You know, like I saw, what was that, Pac-Man, David Pac-Man? He's like a pretty big commentator on their side. Sam Cedar is another big guy. I saw some stuff from him. I watched the Young Turks talk about it. And you know, the Young Turks mentioned the same thing. They said, you know, we just get ad money and donations from the viewers. So we do not make that kind of money. Abba and Preach is saying the same thing too. So it's like, people that are that big in the industry, they know other YouTubers. They know how much people make. They talk about it. So it's like they knew $100,000 was just unreal money. So they're not stupid. You know what I mean? Like all the TradCons look really bad right now. And I mean, they're just as money hungry as anybody else. The other big story, I don't know if you guys saw this. Did I show this to you guys last time? Gosh, I bookmarked so many things on Twitter, but you guys know Lila Rose, right? She was that guy. She was that lady that gave Justin Waller a hard time, and you know what I mean. Basically, she had like a nonprofit for a like anti-abortion company, and basically what happened is, somebody exposed her basically for like they're getting, I don't know, like how many millions of dollars, and they're only like a fraction of that went to the anti-abortion stuff, but the rest of it was just going out to like their salaries. And this is yet like another like, you know, moralizing kind of person. Dang, you know what? Let's see what Tim Pool's saying real quick. Oh, shit. Nice. Bookmarks. How do I do this? Oh, here we go. Upon reflection, I now understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving... He's trying to agree and amplify. He's looking at it like a shit test. He's like, oh, I'm just going to be like, well, here's how ridiculous the other side sounds. As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving people, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts and provide an additional $200 billion at once. He's trying to be funny, but it is in fact not funny. You know what I mean? Destiny's having a field day with this. Damn it, I don't think I can find the Lila Rose now. I don't know if I talked about that last time, but Lila Rose, every single TradCon you can think of that's big up there is probably taking money at this point. I mean, I think that's safe to assume. Hell. No. Just give me like 20 seconds. If I can't find it, we'll just give up. Oh God, here it is. Yeah, here it is. Oh God, why does it keep showing that? Give me this. There we go. Hey Lila, the latest publicly available Form 990 for Lila Grace Rose's live-action nonprofit shows her organization brought in over $14 million in 2022. Right, so they're out here just saying like, you know, please donate to us to fight abortion. They get $14 million in 1 year. According to the statement of functional expenses, only $24,000 was spent in grants to domestic organizations for pro-life causes, and only $81,000 for lobbying. Oh my God, that's more disgusting than I thought. I thought it was like at least $500,000 or something. The rest went to Lila and her team's lavish lifestyle. Lila, get on a space and let's talk about the financials. I'll donate $10,000 if you answer some questions. So, you know, that's Lila Rose, and I mean that's what broke last week. So yeah, I mean, Mr. Pitt, they're all just out here just taking money, like it's just nobody's business.
Somebody was offering me even 1/10 of what they're offering these guys, I'm doing back. I have sponsors who try to approach me all the time. We have maybe 2 to 3 sponsors. We have Extra from time to time. Why? Okay, I use it. I'm comfortable advertising it because it's something I actually believe in and I'm fine with using it. And I think Raycon. Why? Because I use it.
Guess what, nigga?
You want to know how you don't use it? It got scratches. Okay.
That's like most normal YouTubers. You know, it's the ad money, it's donations, and like maybe, you know, a product company asks you to push some of their products. And that's totally fine and normal. I just hope the DOJ has the same energy for any leftist content creators taking payments from foreign entities. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I do. You know, I think what really, it's one thing for the foreign entities. I think what really gave them the slam dunk on this is the election. Because there probably is a lot of creators that do take money from foreign entities, like maybe even directly. But maybe it's not classed as like election interference. This very specifically has to do with like Russia trying to use creators to influence the election. So that was really the nail in the coffin for some of these folks. Don DeMarco and Destiny and Co. are being paid by Progressive Victory, a Democrat leading PAC. So it seems like everyone's got money directing them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just what it is at this point. I think at a certain point, people are like, you know, I got enough money from this, and they're just like, whatever, I'll cash out. Kind of like when Joe Rogan took the Spotify deal. But, you know, that wasn't a secret. You know, he was honest about that. People are just like, whatever, this is just money, and I'll just take this, and that's the rest of my life, and whatever, you know. But what these folks did was just way worse, because it's, you know, from Russia. I don't know how much Progressive Victory would pay Destiny or something like that, but I'd like to think it's not $100,000 per video, and that's what makes this even crazier. But that doesn't diminish the fact that he is taking money from people. That is true.
It got scratches everywhere. We're not lying. And I'm not going to lie to you guys and say like, oh, it's good. It's good.
That's funny.
It's good for what I use it for.
That's funny because that's not rehearsed.
I don't mind saying this for free because it's just true.
You gonna pull up the Surfshark?
I'm pretty sure I got the app right here.
I got this
Surfshark. Okay, right there. There you go. Yeah, just search it up, dude. I'm careful. Why? Because I've had people approach me with big bags, and then I do my Google searches, and I'm like, something not right. The amount of money they're offering, is this really a debit card that it can increase? Or like, when I'm looking into it more, I'm like, yo, we might have to stay away from this one. Come to find out, 6 to 7 months later, they gone, right? So
And
if you don't do that due diligence.
Yeah, and then, you know, another thing a lot of people have fallen into is like crypto scams. Like there's been like YouTubers that took money to shill like a crypto coin that was just a huge pump and dump, and then like a lot of people lose their money. I can't remember any of the names off the top of my head, but I remember in like 2017, especially when there was blood in the streets, market crashed pretty badly. There were some YouTubers that got in trouble for shilling coins, you know, and it's just like, it should have been obvious to them. I mean, not obvious, but it's like, I can see what they're saying. Like, you work this hard to make a platform this big, and it's like, you look at this kind of shady company, and they're like, here, we'll pay you some money to say this. And for, you know, I'd like to think if you have some integrity, it's just like, it's not worth it. Like, if it's stuff that's not that big of a deal, candles, whatever, you know, the Surfshark or something like that. But a lot of stuff is just BS.
As a YouTuber in general, that's already a bad look. As a political commentator whose job is to be hyper scrutiny of everything when it comes to where politicians get paid for, you don't look into the people giving you $100,000? Yeah. Nah, I can't rock with that. You're gonna have to hold the big L for that. And I know Tim Jewell's already tried to just walk over this and he just tried to ignore it, but nah. You should be hyper skeptical of somebody who's that quick to accept money. I mean, listen, when I first came on the scene, like, I didn't know much about these sponsors, so if it didn't look harmful, like, I was like, whatever. But the more I thought about it, like, there's a reason why I don't do, you know, Blue Chew stuff. There's a reason why I don't do toys for dudes or whatever. Not that those things are necessarily wrong. It's just, is this one the kind of thing I want to be advertising? Now, taking money from unknown.
Because if something goes wrong with the product or people get harmed from the product, I mean, like, yeah, you know, the contract you're probably going to have with them, there'll probably be like an indemnity clause in there that makes it so, you know, like, hey, we got nothing to do with this. This is all on the company that made it. But still, you don't want to take that chance because it'll still hurt your reputation as a creator.
Sources, that's even more shady. So, no.
You're not even taking... You don't take money from known sources. Taking money from unknown sources is crazy.
Bro,
yeah, you're right.
Because the person who runs the finances, if you Google his name, it doesn't exist anywhere. That didn't throw any red flags for you. What if you're part of some kind of criminal conspiracy? You don't even know it. Beyond being fucking irresponsible towards your fan, is just also irresponsible towards yourself. You might be putting yourself into a conspiracy you don't even know about. And ignorance will not always save you when it comes to the law.
It won't.
So on that topic, what they're being charged with is money laundering and the FARA Act. The FARA Act, I think, is like the foreign...
Money laundering is interesting. I wonder if it had to do with like trying to not pay taxes on some of that money. That's kind of interesting. Foreign
Agents Registration Act, which is basically like if you are an entity or an individual here in the United States who is lobbying on behalf of a foreign government and being paid to do so, you have to be registered. And if you're
so I think that's the thing that makes it so if they do give money to politicians specifically, that you can go in, it's probably some database and it's publicly available. Like if you really want to look and see who's getting the money.
Not, they can charge you. And that one doesn't look too crazy.
I think so. Don't quote me on that.
Crazy because like I think the people who do have to pay penalties and maybe go to jail for like 2 to 3 years, which for betraying your country sounds crazy. But they also have money laundering charges, which that one can carry a much higher penalty. So we'll see how that goes. But Lauren Chen and her husband most likely are going to be charged in the very near future. The people who ran the Russian ops, they've already been charged. So yeah, they're going to jail. YouTubers are going to jail for fucking around.
No, they're going to jail for finding out.
Yeah, true. But you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I know. I just want to cover this story real quick. I'll say this. If I find out any political commentary YouTuber is being paid by a foreign entity or a foreign country and they're doing political commentary on that specific, I'm going to look at them like you have zero credibility, personally. I can't take anything you say seriously because you're getting paid by these people to say this stuff. That's how I personally feel about it. I'm curious how you guys feel. Does this make you look at Tim Pool or any of these kinds different? If you guys have a political commentary YouTuber that you guys like and you found out they were paid by the very entity that they were speaking very well of all the time, would that make you look at them differently?
That would make me feel a certain way. You know what I mean? It's kind of like they're like escorting themselves. They're prostituting themselves. You know what I mean? For money. That's what they did. See what the comments say. This doesn't make any sense. What law was broken here? Okay, this is the pin of shame. FARA, Foreign Agents Registration Act. I mean, he said it in the video. Russia needs better misinformation. 100K for 1,000 views is just poor business. Tim Pool doesn't spend his whole life never taking off his beanie for you to go and use his bald head in the thumbnail, guys. If I got 100K for a video that only got 1,000 views for not asking nothing, I'm on cloud 9 for that whole year. Some of them were getting paid that 4 times. Dave Rubin was getting $400,000 a month for 4 videos for, you know, probably that many views. Weird they can go after YouTubers for this, but magically they still can't figure out how every politician becomes a millionaire after a few years in office. Some people are good at shutting up and not asking questions. Loud sirens when it's convenient. As a paralegal for a reputable firm, the first thing the lawyers told me, you're screwed if the government is coming for you. Oh, God. Yeah, they probably really, I mean, they didn't just file that case for no reason. They know what they're doing. The biggest red flag about not knowing where the money came from is that all these YouTubers rely on their political reputation being strong and trustworthy, so not backtracking that large of a payment for them to push a narrative speaks volumes. Yeah, it's over for them. This looks kind of good. I infiltrated the manosphere. This could be something we react to. That's funny. Yeah, anyways, that's pretty much that story. This looks like it could be a good video. I don't know. I might look at this. This is kind of long. 30,000 likes. So it looks like I created an alias account on YouTube so that I could purposely fall prey to the manosphere. I watched endless podcast videos and fan uploads of controversial stars, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, The Brother Pill, and Fresh and Fit. I allowed YouTube to mold my new account based on these habits. We might take a look at this. This might help us get some perspective on kind of the stuff we're watching here. This could be good. It could be torture. It could also be good. We'll save that for another time. But yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's all I got for tonight. That is just that's a crazy story. I can't wait to see how that develops. Next week, we're going to be looking at Father X. I think we'll go over 2 of his videos. One of them is about his custody battle, and another one was how much he paid the lawyers. I think that'll be really educational for the folks here. And tomorrow I'll be talking with Father X, just kind of on a private meeting. And then Wednesday I'll be with Steve Sandman, and we'll be having a discussion. He put the question in here. So hopefully that'll be a good discussion. And 28th, we'll be talking to Paul Elam, so I'm looking forward to that. Next Saturday, the stream, I will be in the Bay Area. You know what I'm saying? Running these streets out here, trying to see what's going on. So we're going to move that stream to Friday. We can do Sunday also. I probably will do... that's a tough one. I'm going to say Friday. I will definitely put a premiere out, though, just so you guys can see it. I know Sunday's probably not the best day because most folks got work, so I don't want to torture the folks. I know Klaus specifically. So we'll do Friday. Yeah, do this one. Might be interesting. Peterson isn't Manosphere, though. Yeah, that's the thing. When Peterson was getting big, like for a minute, you remember when they came after Joe Rogan? Because, guys were watching him. After Joe Rogan, the next guy was Jordan Peterson. And that was like before... Jordan Peterson was getting big, like before like the Fresh and Fits and everything like that. So they came after him because a lot of young guys were listening to him. And then, we got the rest of it. So he was like proto-Manosphere, at least a prior iteration to then what we saw more recently. Federal indictments generally have a very high conviction rate, 90%. Yeah. And I read something about that too. So, unless a miracle happens, I mean, they probably would not have brought that case against them if they were not very confident they had the evidence to go forward. 99.96. Wow. Oh God. Yeah, that's not looking good. Elam, nice. Careful in the Bay Area. It's crazy up there. I know. Yeah, Paul Elam reached out to me on Twitter. I showed the folks last week. He put a Twitter post about it. He actually tagged me. And we're going to have a discussion at the end of September. So that'll be posted on his channel. And I'm very grateful for that. Paul Elam is one of the original guys, to be in this space. So to be recognized and to be invited to chat with him is a big honor. So I really do want to study for that. I've been watching more of his material lately, just to be more familiar with it. He has some good videos. Some of his stuff from like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago is a fantastic listen. And I am trying to like look at his Substack and stuff. So I do want to just be very familiar with him. I know he wants to talk about child support, and we'll probably also talk about dowry a little bit and have some fun with that. So looking forward to that. But yeah, I appreciate everybody who came in today, and thanks again for the donations and the support of the channel. You guys really make this fun for me and keep it going. So big shout out to everybody here. And I will catch you guys on the next one, which will be Friday. You have great insights from your work with child support enforcement. Good stuff. Thank you, man. Thank you. I do want to, that's the only reason I started talking about it, honestly, because I just met so many guys who just had no idea. And then I started watching Manosphere stuff, and I kept seeing people talk about stuff where it's like, man, this, if only I could talk to them, then they would know, like I could just tell them this information. So then I just was like, I just got to do it. Cheers. See you guys.